Oh, it's live. Oh, it's live. It's a live stream. I don't know if anybody's here. I haven't seen anybody in chat yet. Yo, check out the shirt though. I haven't put the game on screen yet so that VOD viewers will be able to check out the shirt, which is No No Mecha. It's a Punch Punch Forever t-shirt. They started selling merch and most of it sold out pretty much immediately, but luckily being an extra small, that is the one shirt size that doesn't tend to sell out right away on the internet. And it's a unisex, so I knew it would fit me, even if it might be a little small. All right, let's put the game footage on here. Umineko. No Naku Koroni. Now you can't see my cool t-shirt anymore. Nobody was even here to look at it at the time that I bragged about it, but whatever. Hello, Alf Rules. Are you like an Alf fan account, like the show Alf? Like with the alien? Let me go make sure I tell everybody in my Discord that I'm live. Because I ain't reading shit until at least Ellen Horai is in the chat. Da, 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 da. Incomprehensible madness caught in its subjectivity. Let's go. It's such a perfect description of my lifestyle. Ellen is in chat. In which chapter are you in? I'm in the first chapter, Alf. The very first one. Before I start reading this, I'm going to keep this brief. So I don't want to do a bunch of apologies and like explanations and waste your time, because we want to play this video game before it gets super, super late in real time. But I do want, for posterity and people watching this, to understand I could make this playthrough something that I never missed and was always on time if it was something that made me money and that like got a lot of views. And there's nothing I can really do to make that happen more than it already does. But there might be something you can do. It's a might. But if you know anybody who wants to watch an Umineko live stream, who would be entertained by the voice acting that I do, that might want to contribute something to my ability to keep doing it, I live on... I press my dollar pretty far, I would say. I don't make very much money. I have a lot of fun with the little bit of money that I have. But I'm always in a situation of having to figure out what's going to make me the most money, because I have to be able to at least sustain that much of a living. You know, if I fall below that threshold, I would be preposterously broke. And this is not even reflecting on unattended debts or anything like that, you know, or I don't have any kind of insurance. I don't have any kind of safety nets, you know, other than that I live with my parents, which is its own set of agonies. It's like always, I mean, it's like living in Umineko. It's like being trapped in this video game. Lapusha with Australian $5 says this is towards the final episode of Murder Drones, which I think Gary partially paid for. See, that doesn't even count. That does not in any way count as me making money off of this video game, because that's Lapusha paying me to do something later as a forward payment on something at an indeterminate future. Basically a trust, a trust fall, a bank account trust fall or something. I don't know how to describe it. Layaway. Lapusha is putting a Murder Drones episode watch on layaway by way of the chat. That has nothing to do with me making money off of playing Umineko. The Umineko are monetized. Lapusha, what do you think you make through YouTube monetization? You have to make 1,000 views to make $1 in YouTube monetization. So none of these has made $1 worth of ad revenue. Being monetized means very, very little in the context of something that doesn't get a lot of views. Being supported directly means a tremendous amount. Because if I made, let's say, $40 every time I did an Umineko live stream, that would be $10 an hour, which is like above minimum wage where I live. You know, if assuming I made that through super chats, YouTube obviously is taking a third of that, and then also I have to pay my own taxes, but that's its own other story. I am indeed running as administrator. There's no sound. Okay, that's probably because of I can fix that through the screen share thing probably. Is it repaired? If not, then I have it too quiet on my end, on the system end. Excuse me. Caribou-kun said, unrelated, but I'm cooking a new video now that I'm back from camp. Should be shorter and focused, but it's already turning into something very numbery and minutia. In other words, something that you don't think is going to get any... with YouTube ads, you make jack and you make shit. Yeah, exactly. Maybe if I click start, it'll stop playing the opening theme. I love that it rings the bell, but now I have to wait for the bell because it's distracting. Yeah, what I'm trying to say is, like, I have beyond any one facet of my career, I have many other facets of my life, including like other artistic pursuits, the other facets of the career, people in my personal life, personal upkeep time, doing chores, that kind of shit. Like, any one thing that like needs an amount of attention is taking away from everything else. So every time that I have to set the afternoon aside for like 4 hours to play a video game, it has to be worth it. And like with this game, I feel a sense of obligation towards playing this game. Like, because of the fact that I named myself after it, I like the game, I like reading it, but I don't do things because I like doing them most of the time. I do them because I like them and it will make me money somehow. That's pretty much always been the way I've operated for the last 10 years. I don't just like, unless it's very short, I'll watch a bunch of little short things that are cool. But if it's something really long and I like it, I have to know how I'm going to monetize that on like a long-term time scale, or else I'll never consume it. That's why I haven't consumed any of your favorite long-form media. Anything I couldn't figure out, how am I going to make money to watch 500 episodes of Gintama? I love Gintama. I have not conceived of how would I make enough money to spend the amount of time that it would take, not just to watch the show, but to talk about all of it. Because the longer it is, that multiplies the amount of talking about it you then have to do, right? So it's not just that I'm playing this game, but that I want to analyze it. I'm basically making a long-term investment in being heavily involved in this game, just on the basis that I pulled my name from it, which seems on the surface like a very deep and good reason. But if I have deeper, better reasons to do other things, then it doesn't mean as much, I do feel personally obligated to play the game. And again, I like the game. But it's so fucking long. So this isn't me saying that I'm ever going to stop it. I like it. It's just a matter of, can I do it on time and every week? Every Wednesday at 7, because that requires me to basically tell tell Bird, tell my parents, tell whoever else, like, hey, nothing can be in my way on Wednesday night at 7. Like, nothing can take me out of a time and place where I can do this show at Wednesday night at 7. Dick Masterson, my favorite podcaster, he maybe misses a couple nights a year on each of his shows, and he is late pretty often. but not by a lot. He's not late by a ton. And he always warns people if he is going to be late. And the edited versions are always out on time. And he's been doing it pretty consistently for like 10 years. But it's because he makes 20 grand to do one show. One show. I have never made 20 grand to do one show, in a month. I mean, I've made like $5,000 a month to do all kinds of things. But if I do the wrong things, then I make less money. And it's been a long time since I've really done the right things. So this game is very satisfying for me and a certain subset of my audience that really wants me to play this. And that's the people I'm personally tasking with making this profitable for me. I don't have time. Like, in the effort of... I can't market this. Like, in the effort of me trying to work on my Tezuka project, which actually I know can make me money. I know in multiple ways. Not only that it'll make me, like, in the short term, in the long term, it's an important career move. It's meaningful. It's going to change anime history in certain ways. I don't think any of that's going to happen from me talking about Umineko. This is a very niche thing. This is just for people who are into this thing. And I want to be a part of that. But I don't know if I can afford to. It's a very luxurious way of viewing my career to consider that I could spend 4 hours a week every week for a year doing something that I don't know if it makes me any money. So we'll see what happens. And if you want to send me money, please do so through Golden Witch Fire on Venmo or Cash App, because that's the best way for me to not have to give a bunch of money to YouTube. That's all I'll say on it for now. But if it keeps being late, just know it's because I can't afford to make it on time. And it's not even that it would take that much money for it to be worth it for me, because I make so little in most aspects of my life. But like, again, anything that takes away from other stuff that's more important to me, whether it be time with my partner, time dealing with my family, time, whatever else is happening that's making me late. If I was making a lot of money doing something, I would not let it be late, is what I'm trying to say. Gary, always keeping an amount of my audience engaged around something consistent doesn't mean anything. Like, it doesn't... It's nice for them. What does that do for me, though? Like, unless they're literally paying me for it. It's not that I don't like you guys or want to spend time with you, but I can't afford to. Like, I literally cannot afford to. I don't make a living, unless I do things that will make me a living, which this won't, is what I'm trying to say, Lapusha says late is fine, just don't stop. And I don't intend to. Again, if late is fine, I don't want to have to... Basically, the reason I'm explaining this way now is that I don't want every time going forward that I'm late for me to have to explain why I was late that week. The reason is always, I can't afford to prioritize this. Because if I could, I wouldn't let myself be late. I would just restructure. I would basically tell everyone in my life the day beforehand, like, to base their day around not bothering me at 7 o'clock on Wednesday. The only thing preventing me from having success is consistency. People like consistency. You're wrong, Ellen. You like consistency. People don't give a fuck broadly at all. People care about you making something they like. That's it. That is the only thing that matters. You make something they like. Most people don't care about this video game. The overwhelming majority of people have never heard of it and don't care about it. And I can't convince them to care about it enough to sit through it until I've sat through it, can compress that into something digestible to sell to people to make them like it. If you like consistency, you wouldn't be here. You're fine with chaos. You love the chaos. If you say so, I'll believe you. I don't think most people. Again, I don't think it's about like so. Mr. Medicare is a streamer who is incredibly erratic. He disappears for months at a time, and you never really know exactly what he's going to talk about in his streams. But he creates hype for them. He like lets you know a couple days ahead of time that it's going to happen. He markets that specific stream, and the streams are enormous. They're hugely, 15 to 20,000 people watching, and they're planned. He goes through a set of topics that are big in the media that he knows. Yes, he's still alive somehow. He goes through a set of topics that he knows are going to be relevant. And I've always looked at his streams as like, that's how I should be streaming. Like, stop comparing myself to people who are already successful. I am already successful, though. Well, what do you mean by that? Like, they can do those crazy things because they're already successful? That's just not true. That is not how it works. That's not how it works. Otherwise, everybody would stay successful forever. As soon as you had a hit, you could just be that one-hit wonders are one-hit wonders because they fall off and they're gone. You have to hit every time. And as soon as there's diminishing returns, you find out how good you really are. Like people might be like, okay, let's say you make a song that's really original and then it immediately influences somebody else who makes like a better version of that song. You are now tasked to make a even better song, because if you make one that's just as good as the first one you did, it's not going to be as good as the people who came out after you. And that's how you immediately become irrelevant. To be somebody who stays relevant, you have to always be making something that people are like, what the fuck? Like, how didn't this already exist? Lapusha, you need to finish what you start every time. You don't. That's also just that's not even close to true. There's no artist for whom that is true. Not one. No single artist. Go tell that to George R.R. Martin. Go tell him that you need to finish what you start every time, and he will laugh at you for being poor. Like, that is an absurd statement. I'm telling you, none of these things you guys think are rules. There's only one rule. I told you what it is. You need to make things people like. And even beyond that, if you want to make money off of it, you have to make it in a way that you can profit from. There's plenty of people. Superman's artist died penniless. Plenty of people have made something incredible. Brax guy who's in a Amazon truck. Lapusha, what do you mean by I'm making excuses? I'm explaining to you why I have to make incredible things. What are you saying I'm making excuses for? I'm making excuses for what? For what exactly? I'm very confused what you're arguing, Lapusha. A finished artwork is only when an artist stops. It's only when they die. And even then, other people might fuck with it. And then you have to ask yourself if that's still the same artwork anymore. Like, if Berserk gets finished by other people, is it not? Are you going to say, well, Berserk was finished and that's just another thing? Like, I don't know. I think that's stupid. I think people just draw meaningless boundaries wherever. It sounds like you're threatening to stop. Lapusha, what does it sound like I'm threatening to stop? I have said 5 times that I would not stop playing this game no matter what. I said that 5 times. Those exact words I said. Maybe you missed that part, but I did say it a lot of times. I want to play this game because I feel personally obligated to play it. I have only said that when it comes out is heavily affected by whether I make money doing it. So that I don't want to have to do this explanation next time. So that if I fire up at 10 o'clock and I just start playing the game, or 3 weeks late and start playing the game, everyone understands it's because I didn't make any money playing the game. So I cannot prioritize it all the time. That's all that I'm explaining right now. But I'm also counterbalancing a lot of the things that people are suggesting as to what would make me more successful on YouTube, because you're basing these on these ideas you have about what an artist is supposed to do to be popular. And I'm going to tell you that there are so many exceptions to all of those rules, but there is one rule. There is a rule. There is actually a rule. You have to make things people like. You have to. That's the only rule. And if you want to make money off of it, you also have to do it in a way that you will make money from doing it. I've made plenty of things that people like a lot more than the amount of money I made off of it. I've made some things that I made more money off of it than how much anyone likes it. I actually kind of wrote an article about this today. It's probably why I'm so hyped up to talk about this. But ultimately, if you want to stay successful, it's about the reason we know Ryukishi 07 still is that he has not fumbled the ball. He made Higurashi. It was amazing. If Umineko had sucked, nobody would care about him anymore. But Umineko was amazing, and his next one is amazing. How am I contradicting my own logic, Ellen? What are you saying? I said that you have to make something that people like every time. What this should tell you is that you should do another Fix Trixie stream now that we know how the dang thing actually works. Did people not understood how it was going to work before I did it? You just call in and go, hey, change what you're doing! All right, should I start reading this novel or... Oh, my browser lost connection to my camera. Why did that happen? Oh, I'm back. Okay, that was strange. I never explained what properly. Oh, the Fix Trixie streams. I feel like the graphic said like it's a call-in show where you try to do therapy on me, and I feel like that's exactly what the show was. So I don't know. You sent me a super chat, Gary. Which one? Oh yeah, $7. This should cover the rest of Murder Drones 8. Also, you could probably make some amount of money on books. Hoping Sunops stays a thing. Actually, my buddy John is coming over Friday night to record his lines for that fucking thing, so I could finally finish that goddamn audiobook. So okay, Murder Drones episode 8 is, I guess, on layaway for some indeterminate future time that I've for all you know, I'm literally never doing another request stream, but it's already paid for. So I guess sometime conceivably there's a Murder Drones viewing. I'll let you know. I'll pen it into a schedule someday, and we'll all watch Murder Drones together. This is the weirdest stream. But I appreciate the trust. I had an interesting experience. I went to a mansion not unlike what this one would have, the one Ushiromiya would have been like earlier in its construction, I guess. It was called the Potts Manor in Pottstown, Pennsylvania. A very rich man named Potts, before the Revolutionary War, when it was an American colony, so a British guy named Potts bought this massive amount of land, or captured, or I don't know, he came into possession of a huge amount of land in Pennsylvania, and then he leased out that land so that a town could be built there. So functionally, he is the landlord of the entire town. It's called Pottstown, named after him. And he also had this massive book where he was keeping a ledger of everyone's transactions, effectively making him the town bank. And the reason that we historically know like what was going on in this town is because of this ledger, because you could just look at what everyone was buying and figure out what their lives were all through this one dude's book And basically keeping this book is why he was able to maintain his status as like the richest fucking, magistrate in Pennsylvania throughout his life. Now it's like a fully modern place. It's not a fucking feudal dominion of a essentially a lord, like an old school feudal lord. Is basically what that guy was. And basically, what if anybody lived on Ushiromiya besides the butlers, it would be probably a similar situation. Ellen said, came into a possession of a huge amount of Landon. Poor guy. Where is Landon? God damn it. I guess he probably doesn't come to the Umineko live streams. Aomian, I'm responding to messages on all of the live streams because they all come into one feed for me. I'm on StreamYard, so everywhere I stream to, it all shows up for me as a unified feed. I just think I don't think that. Yeah, all right. Well, let's forget about all the shit we were saying. I've lost track of that conversation, and it doesn't matter anymore. Let's read some fucking Umineko. I don't know who's narrating right now. It's probably Battler, right? Battler usually doesn't want to believe things. He usually Shinjirarenai. That's what I assume this is in Japanese. This probably just says Shinjirarenai. Dio ne or some shit. I don't know. Metastream is over. You were enjoying the meta stream, Asaweeb? Well, they're always somewhat meta. This game is a meta game. So it's always going to be a meta stream when we play this game. And this game does things to my brain. That's another part of why I'm always very hesitant with this game, is that I enjoy it, but it does sincerely fuck with my mind. And I think a big part of it is that I live at home, and it's like that's kind of what the game is about. It's like about a kid who has been away from his parents for like 5 years, coming back to be with his parents and his family, and kind of realizing like all the habits that he's been trying to break about himself are like super emphasized in these people still, and like just the whole game is basically about trauma decompression, and being around people that you've been tied to for a long time is always like having one foot in the past and one foot in the present of dealing with the same issues, and realizing, like I've changed, but the situation hasn't, Arrested Development, the game. It's Trauma Break from Reality, the game. Total. I think that what this game is about is a certain character experiencing something so traumatic that they essentially blocked it all out. And in their attempt to try to remember exactly what happened, they go through a bunch of different possibilities. And each chapter basically explores a different possibility of what might have happened. But the truth is somewhere between all of them. And at some point, it will be revealed that we're like experiencing this like retroactively through a future perspective. Some of this I know because of the anime, but like that's my overarching theory on like what is happening in the game. So yeah, it's a game about trauma decompression. On a scale of 1 to 10, how fucked up is Umineko? Probably a 10. Probably about a 10 on the fucked up scale. I mean, again, it's a game about trauma decompression. It's just about like going deeper and deeper into the generational and social, psychosocial trauma of the, you say like a 7 maybe. I mean, it's not like going out of its way to be heinously dark the way that like I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream is. Like that's my go-to example of just a story that's just unpleasant. You know, like every sentence of it. Manhunt is kind of like maybe a 10 fucked up. Like reading Manhunt feels bad. And it never lets up. There's chapters that I guess are a little less dark where it feels like you get a little breathing room, but like overall you just feel grimy the whole time you're reading it, you know, like, oh, this is a bad experience. And so Umineko is not quite like that. It's not grimy. In fact, it's quite clean in that respect. But it's clean like surgery. It's clean like, okay, you're very, very, with a lot of sterility, pulling something open and carefully examining the pieces and trying to restructure them. So I would describe it as a surgical reading experience, which is why it is exhausting and why it is traumatizing in and of itself. Anyway, let's read this fucking game. What would I rate No Longer Human out of 10? I have only seen the Aoi Bungaku version of No Longer Human. I would say it's less fucked up than Umineko, but it's exactly the same tone. Like the same type of a thing. The same, like, this is about a reaction to childhood trauma and also a social commentary with political underpinnings. But like No Longer Human's just a book that could be adapted into a 4-episode anime. Umineko is like 200 fucking hours of reading or more or some. It's a preposterously long experience. Okay, which is why we need to start reading it. I didn't want to believe it. However, Aunt Natsuhi and the rest of us were in such a difficult situation that we couldn't help doubting any of them, Kumasawa-san included. So we didn't say anything to stop Aunt Natsuhi from trying to oppressively chase them from the room. We had stopped her from shooting, but when it came to exiling them from the room, we were passively agreeing. Maria spoke to the still fretful Kumasawa-san. Get my Maria voice ready. Hold on. I need some tea.
You'll be all right.
Beatrice is...
Actually, she's kind of doing a lower voice.
Beatrice is kind to those who respect her. You believe that Beatrice exists. So I'm sure you'll be fine. I'm going to watch TV in the parlor. Let's watch it together. This place has no TV and it's boring.
It looked like Kumasawa found Maria's roguish laugh very frightening. Doesn't everyone? However, the 3 other people had agreed to leave the room. Kumasawa couldn't fight the flow and had to agree, crying as she left the room. Well then, Natsuhi-san, I shall leave you for tonight. Let us meet again tomorrow. Yes. Please understand, at least for tonight. When the police come, I promise to apologize to you all for my rudeness. You may play chess, but do it in a safe place if you can. Genji, I leave it to you. Certainly. It can't be helped, can it? They always say that the most frightening bears are those with their cubs. Genji, Kumasawa, my sincere apologies. Let us meet again tomorrow. Apologizing while pointing a gun at you. See, this is the exact kind of mom energy that I am so... This is why this game is so traumatic. Please forgive your cold aunt. It's just the metaphors.
Woo! I forgive. Woo!
Madam, the keys to this room. I will hand both over to you. Genji-san pulled the 2 golden keys from his pocket and handed them to Aunt Natsuhi. And I will also hand over my bundle of keys to the inside of the mansion. He took out a bundle of about 10 keys of various shapes and handed it over. To the servants, those keys were probably the proof of their position. Being placed in charge of those keys meant that they were trusted, relied upon. Being forced to return them meant that they had lost that trust. Thinking about it this way, there could have been no greater humiliation for Genji-san, who had served here for all these years. However, his usual indifferent expression remained on his face. Genji, I had planned that after father passed away, I would reward you for your many years of hard work and allow you to retire. And yet, I am treating you like this. Yeah, and you're still doing it. It makes me feel ashamed from the bottom of my heart. I have already received the master's favor. Everything I have done until today has been in repayment for that. Please do not worry over it. Well then, shall we, everyone? Good night to you all.
Woo! Night night. Battler too. Night night. Woo!
Maria? Wait a sec. Guilt made me call Maria back. I groped around in my pocket and took out that scorpion key holder. This repels magic, right? Keep it on you.
Didn't you say you dropped it?
Back then I was kind of pissed off and I was just bluffing that I'd lost it. There's no way I'd lose your precious charm. Maria silently took the charm. I was unable to say anything after that. Well then, everyone, good night to you. Unable to respond, we watched them leave, our expressions completely tired out. Aggie says, I want to watch TV with Maria so bad, TBH. I feel that. Especially because we could just go, "Woo!" at everything that happens. And until the door closed and we heard the auto lock, we were unable to even draw our next breath. Then, when I was finally allowed to take a breath, I noticed that Beatrice's letter, which I had been gripping the whole time and which was soaked with my sweat, actually had 2 sheets. The paper had been tightly stuck together, so I had mistakenly thought that there was only one. There was nothing written on the second sheet. The thing drawn there was a magic circle, written with a red ink like blood. Just like how every magic circle up until then had been different, this magic circle was one that I had never laid eyes on. Inside the circle, a large triangle and a small triangle were fit together in a simple design. But just as before, there was writing in Hebrew, and it seemed clear that it held some kind of meaning. I wanted to know what that could be, but we had just chased Maria, the only person who could understand the meaning of magic circles, out of the room. Yeah, maybe you shouldn't have done that, you dumbass. I thought of the magic circles as a second set of messages from Beatrice. What does this one mean? Damn it. We've chased out all the suspicious people. Now all we have to do is stay barricaded here until morning, and then will everything be over? No, they're all going to be dead, and you're going to feel real bad about it. Once the typhoon is past, will the seagulls cry? Will everything... There's the fucking title again. Once the typhoon has passed, Umineko no Naku Koro ni, will everything be resolved? But the letter that had unexpectedly, that's the 3rd time, by the way, but the letter that had unexpectedly appeared in the study had rejected that naivety. It had made it very clear that if time ran out, it would mean victory for the witch. When time runs out, is the witch planning to take on the offensive? Is she finally planning to display some fearful magic power, maybe something that could have been used to kill 6 adults at once? Wait. When is the time supposed to run out? I don't know. Anything. Now, we should finally be safe. What the fuck makes you think that, you idiot? Finally. Definitely. Yeah, whatever. Keep telling yourself. Even as she said that, Aunt Nazi couldn't stop gripping that rifle. There was no release in the tension of her expression. Of course, none of us felt like breathing a sigh of relief yet. At least not until we could hear the cries of the seagulls. At least not until we could hear Umineko no Naku Koro ni once more. Alright, that's 4. Hey, broken glass. That probably would have had been a better spot to have stopped than where I did, just right at the broken glass. After we chased him out, nobody, although I would have not known who he was talking about when he said after we chased him out, nobody said another word. We had exiled all of the suspicious ones. Even though we had known that there might be some innocence among them, we had exiled them all the same. We had chased them out of this paradise where people didn't have to doubt each other. I wouldn't call it that either. However, our motive for chasing them out had been suspicion of our fellow man, the worst kind of crime for a human. If we had been able to accept the existence of a 19th person, of the witch, then we all might still be talking face to face, trusting in each other. I really appreciate this aspect of Battler's personality, that's his sincere belief is that the worst thing you can do is just not trust somebody. That's kind of beautiful. In that instant, we had agreed to chase out all of the suspicious people. But had that been the right thing to do? During this endless silence, we could do nothing but be quietly tormented by that sin. Aunt Nazi was facing the door, seated all the way back in her sofa, not letting go of her rifle for even an instant. She would probably spend the night staring at the door without a wink of sleep. George Heineke was gazing through a gap in the closed curtains by the window, looking down at the courtyard and the mansion that surrounded it. Whether he was checking to see if any suspicious shadows would become visible through the window, or whether he was engaged in some deep internal conversation, I couldn't tell. Jessica was sitting at an angle on the sofa next to Aunt Nazi's, with a dead expression on her face. And every once in a while, as though she just remembered something, she would take out the inhaler that she had used during her asthma attack and stick it in her mouth. I just heard it from Eineke, but apparently Jessica liked Kanon-kun. It seems that it was such a vague thing that she hadn't realized it herself. You know, it's the kind of thing that other people tend to spot before the person in question realizes it. Like my being transgender. In that case, she might have first learned of her feelings when the person she liked died. It was truly pitiful and sad. Come to think of it, Kanon-kun had been the one to hand her that inhaler. Maybe she was remembering that. As for me, I was fishing around Grandfather's study, thinking I'd researched the meaning of the magic circle on the second sheet of the letter. Even though we were shut up here in a defensive position, my rebellious nature made me want to keep up the offense, find some key to all this. We have plenty of time until tomorrow morning anyway. No matter what I do at that time, no one can find fault with it. No one else showed that much interest in this magic circle. Its meaning was unknown, and once we understood it, we were sure to find some message that would cause us unnecessary anguish. I also agreed about this. However, I still couldn't let it go, so I killed time pretending to research it. You sure are enthusiastic. Did you find anything that might serve as a hint? Not a thing. The first task is even finding a book written in Japanese. Just how many languages could Grandfather read? He's incredible. Aren't you tired, Battler-kun? You should take a rest while someone else is staying awake for you. Aunt Nazi may be saying she'll stay vigilant all night, but there's no way her body can handle that. We should take turns sleeping. Then you sleep first, Aniki. I'm gonna go keep on with my little research until the drowsiness hits. That magic circle? Pretty much. We've got plenty of time to kill. I thought it'd be interesting to find out what kind of messages the great Beatrice-sama put in it. I wouldn't. Keep that up and you'll get possessed by something weird. Relax. I've been certified by Maria. She said I'm utterly lacking any spiritual talent. Were we too cruel to Maria? Jessica, you mustn't think that now. But Mom, if Maria wasn't involved and the killer's someone totally different, they're obviously going to go for the easy targets. If she's killed because of this, then we've just let her die. A gloomy silence settled once again. It looked like Jessica regretted that she'd let her emotions take hold of her and snapped at Maria. She always was like that. Always acted tough, went too far, and regretted it later. I understand how you feel, but Maria was in close contact with the culprit. And what's worse, she seemed to be taking their side with her endless series of mystifying statements. Yeah, so fuck that bitch, let her die. I am relieved that we chased her out. Damn. That's pretty harsh, Aunt Nazi. Couldn't it just have been the nonsense of a 9-year-old girl? Even I thought I was being brazen saying that. I myself had thought Maria was creepy on several occasions today and had doubted her true nature. And when Maria had been chased out of this room, I couldn't deny that I'd felt some relief. If that is the case, then tomorrow I will apologize for what I did. I will take full responsibility for chasing them out of this room. This isn't something that the rest of you have to worry about. I could feel a tragic determination in Aunt Natsuhi's words. To protect her own daughter, she would resolutely chase out the suspicious ones, and if, as a result, she had left to die those people who had the misfortune to be suspected, so be it. She was prepared to take full responsibility. Why does Maria have to keep saying stuff like that? She's bringing about her own ruin. I think that's the reason Maria-chan adores witches and magic so much. Might be because of Auntie Rosa. Because of Auntie Rosa? What does she have to do with this? I think you must have realized it too, Battler-kun. Maria-chan's real father ran off somewhere a long time ago, although Auntie's trying to cover it up by saying he's on a foreign business trip. Talking about Rosa-san's family has become a kind of taboo in the Ushiromi family. I think Auntie even thought about remarrying. But I also believe Maria-chan may have become her shackles and made that quite difficult. After all, she sometimes got incredibly emotional and took it all out on Maria-chan. I agree with you there. It looked like Auntie Rosa was trying hard to like Maria, which means that she didn't really like her. I'll bet she had some strong thoughts about Maria standing in the way of her getting remarried. Sorry, I'm just thinking about my autistic cousin that killed himself a few months ago and the way that his mom regarded him throughout life. I think that the emotional rejection from her mother must have left some deep scars on her young heart. So when she learned about this occult hobby from somewhere, she immersed herself in it so she could fill the holes in her heart. Did you know? To Maria-chan, the image of a witch isn't negative at all. Remember yesterday at the beach when she showed us her notebook? Yeah, it was full of all those fun-looking scribbles. Yesterday when we had doubted the witch down by the beach, Maria had gotten all riled up and started explaining about witches. And not one of the pages had shown a picture of an ugly witch. They were all brightly colored, beautiful, cute witches who looked like they were having fun. That's how I felt about lesbian pornography as a child. There was absolutely nothing sinister about them, like a boy might have imagined. They were being adorned with beautiful dresses who could grant anyone's dreams with their mysterious magic and who made everyone happy. The sorrow of not being loved by her mother. Had Maria sought salvation from the witches as beings who could save her from that sorrow and make her happy? Someday a witch would come and, using her wonderful magic, would bring... God damn it, I accidentally hit the bar too early. Even though she believed that, as she grew older, she had to face reality as her fleeting dreams were sliced to ribbons one by one. Well, witchcraft and lesbian pornography are very intertwined. This is true. If, in front of a girl like that, something claiming to, especially in the world of visual novels, this is like the least pornographic visual novel ever made, granted, but if in front of a girl like that, something claiming to be the witch of Rokkenjima appeared and whispered that she would take Maria to the Golden Land where Maria could be happy, I think it's time I confessed what's in my heart. Maybe throwing up Maria-chan, no, Genji-san and the rest too, was probably the wrong thing to do. Thanks, George. Fucking... It just took you fucking an hour to say it, but you finally said what was obvious. I do feel guilty. This is a very Tezuka manga-esque moment, by the way. There's almost always a moment where, like, the characters you're kind of supposed to be rooting for all, like, end up shitting on, like, the weakest Link character for just being the weakest Link, and then they kind of realize, like, we shouldn't have done that. And then usually the story ends in a horrible tragedy. So, since Jessica had been the one to face them and slam them with the words of rejection, her conscience must be tormenting her a lot right now.
And how do you all explain that letter? No one could have said it there except the 4 people standing behind me. I was able to see that quite clearly with my own eyes. If those 4 are innocent, how was that letter placed there in a locked room with 8 people in it? That's just it. When you put it that way, those 4 really do seem suspicious. But that's no goddamn good. Yeah, it's no goddamn good at all. No good? What is? Right. It might not be worth anything anymore, but let me flip over the chessboard again. Hey, Ellen, what are we on? We've got, I think, 4 Umineko no Naku Koronis, and now probably like 30 flipping over the chessboards. What are we at? Oh, P with $2. Thank you so much. Umineko no Naku Koroni. That's how you know that these $2 went directly to contributing to the ability to do this live stream. So thank you, P, for being a real one. What I mean is, if one of those 4 really is the culprit, it makes no sense. Oops, I hit the space bar and that happened. It was a fool's errand to try to count them. Yeah, there was one scene where he said it like 15 times in a fucking row. That's right. Wasn't setting that letter openly on the table the same as confessing that one of them was the culprit? You're right, that makes no sense. If you were gonna do that, you'd put it like in the crack of the door to make it look like someone had slipped it in from the outside. Yeah, they must have known they'd be suspected if they didn't make it look like the culprit was outside the room. Yeah, that's it exactly. If the culprit was one of those 4, setting that letter right in the middle of the table would be both risky and meaningless. But putting aside whatever trick they used to set it there, if we assume that the culprit is someone other than those 4, in other words, someone who was outside the room, then they had a lot to gain from that letter. Stop that, Battler-kun. At this point, that issue is insignificant. Aunt Natsu quickly guessed what I was getting at. No, maybe she had thought of it long before I had and simply held her tongue. If the culprit was outside the room, then once we shut ourselves up in a locked room where the culprit couldn't touch us, it was all over for them. That's right. It's the same as the theory I proposed about how grandfather disappeared from this room, isn't it? That theory that grandfather had left the room of his own accord. If the culprit used some tactic to lure him out, and grandfather left of his own accord, then... Come to think of it, even Maria had said it when we found the scorpion magic circle on the doorknob to the study. Beatrice couldn't get through this door, but she might be able to induce someone to leave of their own accord. In that case, that would mean we fell for the culprit's trap completely and sent out some new potential sacrifices. Yeah, I mean... I know it's easy from an outsider perspective reading the story to be like, y'all are dumb, but like this is my least favorite plot point so far, that like everybody got riled up and emotional and kicked out their friends and then realized that's a bad idea and they might have just doomed them all to die. But it is realistic. Like it is something that would happen. It's just very frustrating. Genji and the rest aren't fools. If they desired to protect themselves, they would quickly think of the next safest place after this room. Okay, sure. They are surely hiding themselves there. And do you know what that room is, Nuts? Is there a room that's safe besides this one? Aunt Natsu hadn't answered the question. She herself realized that if the culprit wasn't in that group, the letter could have easily been a trap. However, it wasn't worth the risk of calling back the people she had once thrown out. To Aunt Natsu right now, her greatest and only duty was to protect the children. What children? She kicked out the only fucking child. I'm sorry, I see y'all are always standing Natsu in the chat, and I'm sure I'll understand eventually, but so far, she
really grinds my gears. She is easily the most frustrating character in the game for me. I'm trying to think if there's another character that I find is frustrating. I don't think so. Like Ava is hilarious because she's obviously doing it on purpose. She's like just a cunt. Maria is obvious. Okay, no, Maria's not Maria. I mean, her mom, Rosa. Rosa is the worst. Rosa is obviously the outright worst character, like the most hateable. People, Trixie thinking people stand Nazi for any reason other than her being incredibly hot. That's fair. Her hair is super cool. Her outfit is super cool. I don't think she's any like. I think Ava is hotter. Like I would say. Who do I think is the hottest? Well, obviously, fucking Shannon is the hottest, but her personality is not as attractive. I don't think Natsuhi would look as hot with that. Like, if you took her hair down and you took her outfit off, I don't think she's gonna be as hot as Ava. If you did the same things with her, you know, I think a lot of it is that cool ass purple outfit that she wears with Natsuhi. Anyway. And to that end, she was thinking a few sacrifices may be unfortunate necessity. Jesus fucking Christ, this woman. Hey, Aunt Natsuhi, let me ask something a little difficult, alright? If by coincidence Jessica had also been standing behind you at that time, would you have chased Jessica from the room too? Sure, there may have been a degree of cruelty to it, but as a mother, you thought you should protect your daughter no matter what. And it was out of that duty that you sent them out, fully aware you'd eventually be held responsible for it. I'm not trying to criticize you for it or anything. I was just thinking about what a great mother Jessica has. Yes. You've been dealing with these incidents since morning, and you've been pulling all of us along this whole time without losing your composure. If you had been as confused as the rest of us, every last one of us may have been in the culprit's grasp by now. It sounds like he's accusing her of being the culprit. So I think that we all have to thank you. Like, it does sound like they're being ironic and accusing, like they're about to pull the, like, say, and by the way, we all know it's you, right? Thank you. So what you're trying to say is this, right? You want her to act as Maria's mother too? I always thought of Maria as a real little sister and adored her. No, you fucking did not. And yet, a bunch of things happened. We got a bit confused. And I said a lot of mean things to her and hurt her. Mom, please. Let's stay with Maria. No, with everyone. There was no culprit among us. Why can't the culprit behind all this just be the witch, Beatrice? So let's just stop doubting each other. Let's all live in a fantasy so that we can get along. She sounds like a real fucking person about to make a government. Aunt Natsuhi closed her eyes for a short while. Was she coping with her throbbing headache again, or was she thinking of something? Jessica, you are my precious daughter, the daughter I was finally blessed with a whole 12 years after I married my husband. I would become the worst kind of demon to protect you. It's like Tyler, the Creator's Mama. If you ain't ever heard the song Mama Talk off of Call Me If You Get Lost, Tyler, the Creator's mom is like, I'll fucking beat a bitch ass over my child. I go to the school. I'll kick the teacher's ass. Anyway, that was some pretty strong language at the end there. She realized very well that these were only words, but even so, she was strongly resolved to protect her daughter. Even if she had to become a demon, she might have already become a demon. But that was because she was tormented by guilt. Today had been so long. So many things had happened in one day, and we had been put under such pressure. I wonder if we have the right to greet tomorrow the way we are now. There it is. I found it. It's this magic circle. Within the books I had been constantly flipping through, I had finally found the same magic circle that had been drawn on the second sheet of the letter. You know, I have to wonder, like, does that mean that it's a really obscure symbol, or like he was just looking in the wrong books? Because like a lot of the time there's a lot of repeat. You know, like if you were looking through 10 books of dinosaurs, like you're gonna see a velociraptor in all 10 of those books. You're not gonna have to flip through all 10, but there might be like a real obscure dinosaur that's only in one of those books. Anyway, George Eineke peered at it as well. This magic circle's name was the third magic circle of Mars. The Hebrew written on it was from the Old Testament's book of Psalms, Psalm 77, verse 13. What God is so great as our God? The meaning of obviously Beatrice, the meaning of the magic circle was discord. It agitates internal division. I'm howling at the moon and singing in the middle of a summer afternoon. It agitates internal divisions and causes the enemy to bring about their own downfall. Whatever can we do to take it here anyway? Whoa. Seriously? Could there be a more fitting way to describe our current situation and mental state? We couldn't help but be stunned into silence. There's gotta be some like Beatrice meets Discord from My Little Pony fan art out there, right? If anybody find me that, please. Find me all the Beatrice Discord fan art you can and throw that in the Golden Land chat if it exists. If not, obviously, I am tasking someone. I'm sure I still have some Brony artist fans, right? So, this letter was a trap? How'd they put it here? There wasn't anyone in this room except for us 8. But anyway, let's ignore how they got it in here for now. The culprit was after just one thing. They wanted to spread the seeds of doubt inside this impregnable study and use us to throw the sacrificial sheep out. In that case, what they're after is the people who went out of the room. Yeah, y'all still haven't run out to go make sure your friends aren't dead, but I guarantee the longer you take, the closer... Mom, what should we do? Those 4 are in danger. And then you all run out and you all get axed right away. It wasn't surprising that Aunt Nazi remained unpleasantly silent. Even if this was all a trap by the culprit, even if the 4 who had been chased out of the room were in danger, it had nothing to do with the safety of the 4 people in here. And there was no way to prove the innocence of the 4 people we had kicked out. If we're willing to let them die, then we shouldn't leave this room no matter what. That way is safest. Just then, all of a sudden, the piercing sound of a phone rang through the room. It was the antique extension phone that was set on Grandfather's study desk. It had started ringing right as we began this conversation. It was only natural that we would think it an SOS from the others who we had kicked out. But then Aunt Nazi spoke. How can the telephone be? It should be broken down and unusable. It doesn't matter. If that's Maria and the others calling for help, if that problem with the phones was the culprit's work in the first place, then this phone call is more than likely. With that one sentence, they're fucking pick it up, whoever it is. The ring of the phone, which had sounded like a scream for help, started to sound like a ghastly summons from some unknown person. Aunt Nazi hesitated over whether to pick up the receiver. Let's take it, Auntie. The phones might have been fixed for some reason. It could still be an urgent call from Maria-chan and the rest. That's right. And on the slight chance that it is a call from the killer, bring it on. Let him friggin' talk. That's what I'm saying. It's just a phone call. No matter what they babble through the receiver, it's not like it's gonna hurt you. We'll see. It's just like it just says like boom and then your head explodes. If you won't pick it up, then I will. I will take it. Hello? I stretched out my hand to take the receiver, but Aunt Nazi picked it up first, as if to say she had it under control. We all held our breath, trying to figure out who the person on the other end of the phone was. But for a while, Aunt Nazi just kept saying, Moshi Moshi. A silent phone call? There's no way Maria and the others would do something so creepy. Which means this phone call, might it possibly really be coming from inside the house? Natsu stopped repeating hello and strained her ears, because she thought she heard something far away on the other end of the receiver. I gotta make some kind of beat out of this fucking song. What was it? Huh? Is someone singing? Oh shit. What do you mean singing? I don't know. Faintly from the other end of the phone, I can hear someone singing. I wonder what it could be. Give it here for a sec. Hello? I half forced the receiver from the stunned Aunt Natsu's hand and pressed it against my ear. At first I didn't hear anything, but because I had been told about it beforehand, I noticed. Not in a quiet voice, but rather far away from the receiver, I could hear a girl singing a song. The voice sort of sounded like Maria's, but that just made the situation even more inexplicable. You can hear it, right? I can hear it, way in the background. At the very least, the one who had made the phone call hadn't been Maria. After all, Maria was singing some song far away from the receiver. In that case, the one who made the phone call should have been Genji-san, Kumasawa-san, or Dr. Nanjo. And yet, they weren't saying anything. Why? For what reason? Who was the person who made this phone call? Hey! Hello? Who is it? Answer me! Is that Maria singing? Answer me! What's going on? What is it? I don't know. All I can say is, this is probably a trap and Maria's in trouble. Aunt Natsu took the receiver again, but after calling into it several more times, she realized that she wasn't getting anywhere and hung up. She then dialed quickly, and she clucked her tongue. Oh right, if the phones are back, we should be able to reach the police. But judging by her reaction, the outside line still wouldn't connect. Let's go. Even if we know it might be a trap, we have to go. Yeah, absolutely. Jessica and Natsu, stay here. Ooh, you're splitting the group? Ooh. When Anaki and I tried to dash out, Aunt Natsu stopped us. Wait just a minute. I can't let you go alone. I will go too. Jessica, you wait here. And you'd have me be the only one left out? Not a chance. I'm coming too. Yeah, it might be better that way. If the goal of that phone call was to split us up further, it wouldn't be a good idea to leave someone to watch this room. There's no time to argue. Let's all go. Natsu raised the rifle high and took the lead. I needed a weapon myself as well. I found a 3-pronged candelabra which looked like it could be used for some strange ritual and armed myself with it. With the spikes it had to fit the candles on, although they were short, it was almost like a 3-pronged spear. Then the 4 of us left the study. We left the study which should have been the safest place inside the mansion. And so we had been lured out despite the fact that we had barricaded ourselves in a safe locked room. And perhaps we were even repeating exactly the same series of events that had led to grandfather disappearing from there. Maria! Where are you? Answer me! I listened closely but didn't hear anything. The mansion was vast, and the sound of the rain even noisier than before, as if the passing typhoon was making its last stand. Maria-chan said that she wanted to watch TV in the parlor, right? Let's try going downstairs. Yes. Good idea. Everyone be mindful of your surroundings. Yeah. Y'all are gonna fucking die. Oh, you're gonna die tonight. With Aunt Natsu in the center, her rifle readied and her finger on the trigger, We moved in a group, our backs together, checking our surroundings in all directions, as though the power of that magic circle designed to spread discord had brought it all into being. We had split up and furthermore had been dragged into dangerous territory. In other words, even now in this very moment we were doing just what the culprit wanted us to do. This was now a strange space where it wouldn't be odd for anything to suddenly occur. Y'all are just creating these circumstances knowingly. Alright, go for it, I guess. Aunt Nazi nervously pointed the barrel of the gun at every dark spot and shadow. It felt like that motion was out of fear rather than caution. But the rifle she held in her hand would surely also be her trump card that the killer was afraid of. You know, I've been thinking, it wouldn't be impossible to stick one of those ice picks into someone's chest, like in Kanon-kun's case. But splitting the skull and sticking them into the forehead like it was with my parents wouldn't be that easy. Why? This is what's in your... Yeah, I guess you're thinking about how you're gonna die. You think the culprit had that kind of animal strength? They probably have some kind of weapon, a device that can shoot or pound in those ice picks. That handle was too short to be driven in that deeply by human strength alone. Whatever the case, they have enough force to break through his skull. It seems that Kanon's wound even reached his lungs. Even if you see our opponent, do not step out in front. You must not move away from my back. Just how sinister and frightening was this weapon that could shoot these creepy ice picks? And could I do anything to combat it with just this candlestick in my hand? In the first murder, the culprit had probably assaulted 4 of our parents at once, as they discussed in the inheritance problem in the dining hall. And we also had 4 people. Apparently I wasn't the only person thinking this. George, Eineke, Jessica, and of course Aunt Nazi were stretching their senses to the utmost limit, in the highest and worst state of tension, slowly advancing one step then another. Ah, what sinful people we are. A world as terrifying as this, and we pushed Maria and the rest right into the middle of it, just because of the seeds of doubt spread by that single letter. We finally reached the first floor. The parlor was just across the hall. When we listened carefully, we could hear it faintly. Maria's eerie singing voice. She wasn't singing naturally, as though she were in a good mood. She was singing mechanically, as if she was in music class in school and had been ordered to sing. The song she was singing was just a common folk song, one that everyone has probably sung in school at one time or another. But why that, in the middle of the night, alone, with all her heart, over and over? Why? When we had just left the study, we had called out in loud voices asking Maria where she was, but this time no one said even a single word. We hid our breath, and the sound of our footsteps heightened all our senses and examined everywhere around us to a neurotic degree as we advanced each step. The door to the parlor was closed, but we could hear Maria's singing voice through it. Aunt Nazi put her hand on the handle of the doorknob. George Eineke stopped her. I'll open the door. I have the code. Sorry, that's a Gears of War reference. Aunt Nazi, Battler-kun, ready your weapons. All right. Be careful. They might attack as soon as we open it. George Nissan, watch yourself. Sure. Okay then, here we go. He tried to open it, but immediately felt the hard resistance of the lock. Aunt Nazi took the bundle of keys from her pockets and gave them to George. There were about 10 keys, and none of us had a clue which was which. Because of this, George had to fumble around loudly and test several of the keys. Since we had hidden our footsteps preparing to make a surprise attack on the room, this almost felt fatal. The whole time we could hear Maria's voice from the parlor singing the same song over and over. It was like a broken, crazy cassette tape. In the morning, we had been in that room the whole time, all of the frightening things that had occurred outside that room. So we had convinced ourselves that even if nowhere else could be trusted, that room alone was safe, even though it's fucking mostly windows. That baseless impression was quickly falling apart. I mean, Maria seems fine. That's who you were really worried about, right? It unlocked. Thank you. George-kun, Jessica, move behind me. Auntie, let's all jump in at once and split up in different directions. If we just stand around after opening the door, those ice picks might fly right through the center. That's some Dark Souls thinking right there. I'm well aware. Ready? Actually, I kind of wish I could call it quits. I readied myself. If they're going to throw ice picks at me, we'll see how they like my candlestick. Go! Aunt Nazi and I rammed into the door as we flew into the parlor, quickly splitting up left and right and searching the parlor for someone who might be waiting for us. But what our eyes landed upon was an altogether outlandish scene. Oh, shit. The parlor was stained with blood. This is exactly what I was expecting them to find, if I'm being quite honest. This place where we had spent almost the entire day, where we had pressed in together to protect ourselves from some unknown malice, had become stained with fresh blood, had become an ocean of blood. On the floor lay Genji-san, Kumasawa-san, and Dr. Nanjo, their entire bodies stained bright red with blood. But the only way we could identify them was by the clothes. That was because, that's right, this was how this whole tragedy started. Their faces were all mashed up like Dad and the others in the storehouse, and you couldn't even tell where the eyes and noses were. It was like someone had vulgarly gobbled apart a tomato pot stew wrapped in a pie crust. Oh, what the fuck? All globby and sloppy. And that wasn't all. Their bodies had other wounds. They weren't those demon's ice picks. They were in Genji-san's stomach, Dr. Nanjo's thigh. No, his knee? Yeah, it would be his knee. In the epitaph, the sixth twilight was the stomach, and on the seventh twilight it said to gouge the knee. So after seeing one of them stuck near Kumasawa Bachan's calf, I couldn't help masochistically laughing. Yeah, of course it would be. On the sixth twilight, gouge the stomach and kill. On the seventh twilight, gouge the knee and kill. On the eighth twilight, gouge the leg and kill. Now even the eighth twilight is over. And the next one, the ninth twilight, what was it again? Maria was there. I love her so much. That's my girl right there. Absolute Dotaru moment right here. Just want to go up and pat her on the head. Give her a big hug and tell her it's all fine. She was facing the far wall, standing stock still, completely alone. Facing away from this horrible scene, standing in front of the wall, singing her song over and over. There was nothing else in the room. Just the corpses of the three who had been brutally killed, and the receiver still off its hook, showing that it had been this room that the call had come from. Just that and Maria, her back to this scene, facing the wall as she kept on singing. We couldn't even scream at this bizarre scene. We could only stare shocked, our mouths hanging loosely open. Maria? Jessica called out to her, but Maria showed no reaction. Alone, she kept singing on and on. We had come here trying to save Maria from some approaching danger. So now that we had found her, we should have been running up to her, hugging her, joyous that she was safe. And yet, not one of us could do that. Everyone thought it, but they couldn't say it. After all, because that's right, it's crazy, and yet... But no, it couldn't be. Maria? Stop singing! Are you listening? At some point, Aunt Nazi and I had pointed our weapons at Maria's back. I yelled at Maria in a violent voice, but there was no reaction. She just kept singing. With the candlestick readied, I ran up to her and forcefully, no violently, slammed my hand down on her shoulder. Then I pulled on her shoulder, forcing her to turn around. Maria's small body was quickly pulled down and fell. And as though unhappy about how her singing had been interrupted, she looked into my face with her usual expression. Even in this gruesome situation, she was just like normal. Maria, what the hell is this? Who did this?
Beatrice.
Enough of that fucking bullshit! I threw the candlestick I had been holding against the wall. The violence of that reckless sound should have gone straight into Maria's heart, but her expression didn't change at all. Battler-kun, stop. I mean, she's pretty used to violence. I don't think just hearing a candlestick, it'd be enough. She'd have to be hit by it. Battler-kun, stop. Maria-chan, this time you should have seen the face of the culprit who killed these three. Was the culprit the same Beatrice who gave you the letter?
Ooh, Beatrice.
Well, now we know for sure. There is a 19th person. Beatrice does exist. Then, Maria, I'm sure you'll tell me this at least. How did they kill these three people? What the hell did they do to them to kill them in such a brutal way?
Don't know.
How could you not know? It happened in this room. Are you trying to tell me you were so absorbed in singing that song that you didn't even notice? I think she was probably facing away singing, on purpose, maybe even at command. Calm down, Battler-kun. Maria-chan, let's you and me have a chat, okay? George Aniki, as he always did, crouched down next to Maria so that their eyes met and talked to her very kindly. Maria-chan, can you tell me why you were facing the wall and singing that song?
Ooh, Beatrice said to face the wall and keep singing for a long time. Ooh.
So, Beatrice came here then. Genji-san and the rest were still alive at that point, right?
Ooh. We all came into the parlor together and sat down. Genji-san made sure to lock the door. It was locked when we got here, but then how did Beatrice get into the parlor? Ooh, but Beatrice is a witch, so locks don't matter. She turned into butterflies and came in through the crack in the door.
Huh? Give it a rest with your goddamn jokes. Like hell that happened. What are you going on about?
You can't believe it? That's why I didn't want to say. Even if I tell you, you don't believe.
This is how I feel about opening my mouth to anyone ever.
But Beatrice is a witch. She can do anything with her strange magic. That's why Beatrice doesn't care whether a door is locked or not.
And then, after Beatrice appeared, what happened to everyone?
Beatrice talked to us. She said grandfather's study was protected by a powerful force, and she couldn't enter no matter what she did. So she told us she'd select the 3 sacrifices from the 4 people in the parlor. They all begged her not to. Kumasawa-san just kept saying, please, please, don't. But Beatrice chose. And when she did, she said I would be fine. Why do you think? It's because I had the scorpion charm with the 5th magic circle of bars upon which Battler prayed for my safety and which he put his feelings into. Because of that power, Beatrice couldn't do anything to me and me alone. So she decided to use the other 3 for the sacrifices. And then she said this to me. Come, face the wall and sing a song for me. You will sing lots and lots of songs, so no matter what happens, no matter what you hear, you won't fear, you won't hear, you won't know. Come, let me hear many fun songs. So I was singing the whole time, over and over, so I didn't hear anything, didn't know anything. And then all of you came.
You expect me to believe that crap? Don't take me for a moron.
Then who will you suspect this time? Suspect me? Try killing me right here? Even if you do that, Beatrice won't stop existing. Now the 8th twilight is over, and Beatrice will revive.
No, she fucking won't. I'm done with your shit. I've had enough to last me a lifetime. There's no such thing as witches. That crap won't work on me. I won't accept it. Beatrice doesn't exist. I'll never accept that she does. So I won't. You'll never accept that she does? Challenge begun. So I won't let her exist. I won't let her revive. The legend's a legend, and that's all it's ever gonna be. I won't accept something like that.
Battler, stop! It's not like Maria killed them or let them die. Beatrice came and Maria had to obey, unable to resist.
Huh? Aunt Natsu? Oh shit. She isn't here.
Huh?
What?
Mom? Where did she go? She went out by herself just now, reading a letter.
Letter? That makes sense. The culprit's done with the 8th Twilight, and it's all gone swimmingly for them. They might well have left a letter so they could brag even more. We had been so wrapped up in questioning Maria that we forgot to look for one. But even as well armed as she was, why had she left the room all by herself in this dangerous mansion after reading it? I'm sure there's a good reason. Jessica tried to chase after her and tugged at the handles of the door, but it resisted strangely and wouldn't open.
Mom! Mom! What's going on? Open! Open!
It was only natural. Natsu had picked up the candlestick which Battler had thrown at the wall and which had fallen to the floor. She had then skillfully wedged it between the doorknobs on the double doors like a bolt, holding them closed. The intricate design of the candlestick meant it jammed well and formed a truly sturdy seal on the door. The tragic scream of a daughter for her mother, did it reach Natsu's ears or not? Natsu was alone in the entrance hall. It was the place where the portrait of Beatrice had been hung. Natsu threw down the final letter from Beatrice that she had read in the parlor, readied her rifle again, and in a voice that rang clear, yelled this in the massive space that was the entrance hall. I am Ushiromi Natsu, representative of the Ushiromi family. Show yourself, Golden Witch Beatrice. The entrance hall was dimly lit. Other than a faint light which shone on the center of the room, everything was blotted out by the jet-black darkness. Whoa. She's here. In that darkness, butterflies glittering in gold squirmed, twinkled, and sneered. Natsu gave one more huge gulp and pointed the cold barrel of the gun at the gold butterflies. At last, you have shown yourself. I still can't believe that something like you really existed. But that isn't a problem. Both I, bearing the title of representative to the Ushiromiya family, and you, claiming to have succeeded the head of the Ushiromiya family, are here right now. At this point, whether you are a witch or not is a trivial problem. Come, let us settle this. Which of us will truly succeed the Ushiromiya family? Me, Ushiromiya Natsu, or you, Beatrice? Allow me to respectfully accept your request for a duel. It's time to The gold butterflies slowly formed a human shape which walked into the dim light. Natsu readied the rifle and glared. The witch raised her golden staff overhead and laughed. Natsu's finger slowly squeezed the trigger. And go! Battler made an all-out dash at the door and rammed into it, crushing the candlestick which had been barring it and making it possible for a big gap to be opened in the door. He kept kicking the candlestick through that gap and the door was finally released. At that time, they heard it. They clearly heard just once the crisp sound of gunfire.
Mom! Mom!
Jessica-chan, you mustn't run off by yourself. That was the sound of a gun just now. Oh, Natsu just shot. At who? At the culprit. The noise had come from the entrance hall, and the entrance hall looked like a stage, like the heroine of a tragedy lying down and bathed in light, Arrayed in the beauty of that silence, Aunt Nazi was face up, crumpled on the floor. Half crazed, Jessica ran up to Aunt Nazi. On her forehead, it was almost as though a sparkling shard of pigeon's blood ruby had been placed there. And from it, a single stream of blood makeup passed by her eye and began to traverse her face. The faint smell of gunpowder smoke came from the barrel of the rifle Aunt Nazi still grasped. Huh? Then she shot herself in the forehead? Why? Mom! I don't get it. Why did Auntie run away alone? Why did she shoot it through her own forehead? Maria-chan, Aunt Nazi read a letter before she left the room, right? There's no letter here. Damn it, what did she read and why was she lured out here? I don't know who cares about that? What the hell? Why suicide? Why did you leave me alone? Jessica clung to her mother's corpse, crying earnestly. My body consumed by an anger I didn't know what to do with, I stole the rifle from Aunt Nazi's hand and spun around, pointing the barrel of the gun into the darkness on all sides as though I was pointing a light from a lighthouse trying to find the culprit. George Eineke, even in this situation, was trying to calmly figure something out, but that effort might have been doomed to futility. And Maria alone was completely indifferent. Is she treating this as some kind of predetermined fate? No, that's not it. This is all a prelude to a wonderful world. The door to the Golden Land will finally open.
On the ninth twilight, the witch revives, and none shall be left alive. And on the 10th twilight, the journey ends, and you shall reach the home of the gold. It's all over now, Beatrice. Congratulations, congratulations. So lead me to the Golden Land you told me of, right now.
There, all of the dead will be resurrected, and even the love they once possessed will be revived. So in Maria's eyes, it's just as though all of today's tragedies never even happened. And all those days she spent deprived of love never happened either. Will you cut that out? What's so fun? What's to be congratulated? There were 18 people on this island. 14 are dead. Only the 4 of us are left. I'm definitely not gonna die until the night is over. No, until the typhoon passes and the seagulls gather again at the harbor, I'm definitely not gonna die. I'm gonna survive, definitely.
Give it up, battler. Guns are meaningless against Beatrice. Besides, survival and everything else doesn't matter now because it's over. The journey has already ended. See? Look at the clock.
Uh-oh. Huh? The clock? Hearing those words, I looked at my wristwatch. Both hands were almost touching near the top. Very soon it would be 12 a.m. In other words, 24 o'clock. When you think about it, isn't 24 o'clock a strange time? It can be called 2400 and it can be called 000. It's the hour at the culmination of the previous day, and at the same time, it is hour 0 as the next day begins. Clearly, he doesn't want the dark hour.
Beatrice!
Maria suddenly called out happily and ran towards the darkness. It was almost as though Beatrice was somewhere in that darkness, and Maria was running up to her. As I looked down the barrel of the rifle, as Jessica hugged her mother's corpse, as George Eineke stood there shocked, we gazed into the darkness. We gaze into the darkness, am I right? Our eyes fixed just in front of Beatrice's portrait, and there Maria leapt into a hug with the portrait's subject. You've got to be kidding me. This is ridiculous, impossible. This madness can't possibly be. Witches don't exist. I won't accept it. Things like you must not exist because this is a human world. Do you think I could accept something that's not human? I mean, there's animals and plants. Never. I will never. I pulled hard on the rifle's lever. The cartridge was ejected, fell on the floor, and a new cartridge was loaded. Then I sighted the witch down the barrel. Maria turned around. Still clinging to the golden witch, she turned around.
Didn't I tell you it's meaningless? Your lead bullets are meaningless against Beatrice. Humans are so stupid, aren't they?
I won't accept the existence of witches. Who are you? Just try moving one step. Just try moving one finger. I'll blast you away. The laughter of the witch, no, the witches, was joined by the laughter of even the large clock in the hall. It was probably telling us that the time was 24 o'clock. It was both a tone telling us that we had reached the culmination of this day and a tone informing us that all had returned to nothing. The rules had specified that the witch would win when time ran out.
Battler, Georgia Oni-chan and Jessica Oni-chan, the journey has ended, and the witch has revived, you see?
And none shall be left alive. The witch shall praise the wise and bestow 4 treasures. One shall be all of the golden land's gold. One resurrects all the dead people's souls. One even revives all the love they possess. And one for the witch to eternally rest. Rest in peace, my beloved witch Beatrice. All right, my new theory is that there was a brief period where Kinzo was trans, and that's when he was Beatrice. But then he had to go back to boy moding permanently, and that's why the Golden Witch is dead, and he can never go back, except for through alchemy and sacrifice. Agidine, that was just my theory. That was one of my many random theories. The storm passed, and the leaden clouds that had enshrouded the island for so long began to clear away. Sunbeams shone from the rifts between the clouds. Yesterday's storm seemed like a lie. Just as someone had wished, the seagulls returned to the harbor once again and let their lively cries be heard. Afterwards, the police arrived and conducted an investigation of the scene. The corpses of the children who are believed to have survived until the very end were never found. However, from the body parts that were discovered and the unimaginable gruesome nature of the scene, the police were forced to conclude that the chances of survival for the 18, including the children, were hopelessly low. Just how gruesome was the banquet of the witch, and how beautiful was the golden land? Those tales are for them alone, to tell amongst themselves. They have no tale for those who arrived after the banquet had ended. One can only but imagine what transpired during the course of those 2 days. However, the witch was fickle. She made a point of leaving behind this tale which had no need to be told and permitted it to spread. A few years later, a strange wine bottle drifting on the waves of a quayside of a neighboring island was recovered by a fisherman. Stuffed inside were tightly rolled notebook pages crammed full of the wedges with minuscule writing. Written there was this tale. It would be through these pages that the people first come to know the nature of the mysterious and whirlpool day period that began on October 4th. God damn it, why is it so fast? Is there a way for me to slow this down? Lovers of the Occult claimed to be the story of the result of the... This is basically the fucking precursor of House of Leaves. However, not one of these interpretations arrived at the truth of the facts, and while the notebook pages tell this mysterious incident, they did not tell the truth behind it. In fact, perhaps not even the writer of the notebook knew the truth. Perhaps she may have desired to know. According to the writer's signature, her name was Ushiromi Maria. Furthermore, as a result of an all-out police search, part of Maria's body has been discovered, a piece of her jaw. This was one of the rare instances where the owner of a body part was able to be identified through the dental records. There are many parts that could not be linked to any specific person in that gruesome scene, so the jaw can be called an extremely fortunate find because the jaw had been separated from the body, and the police consider chances of survival hopelessly dim. No other parts are found or identified. Let's conclude this tale with the final paragraph of the notebook that Maria left behind. By the time you read this, I'll probably be dead, although there are many or may not be a corpse. You who have read this, please understand the truth. This is my only wish. Ushiromi Maria. To this very day, the truth of the Witch Legend serial murder case has not been brought to light. Oh my gosh. First game, Legend of the Golden Witch results. Ushiromi Kraus died on the first twilight, chosen by the key to the Golden Land and sacrificed. Rudolph died in the first twilight. Kyrie died in the first twilight. Rosa died first twilight. Shannon first twilight. Goda first twilight. Ushiromi Ava died second twilight. put stake of Asmodeus and stake of Beelzebub in the husband, stake of Satan and Kanon, stake of Mammon, stake of Lucifer and Genji, stake of Belphegor and Lanjo, stake of Leviathan and Kumasawa. The witch revived on the 9th night. She will finally open the door. Died on the... Wait, who was it that died on the... Okay, god damn it. Missing. Accepted the witch, prostrated herself, and was invited to the Golden Land. But Battler still denies the existence. Will she invite him to the Golden Land? The witch shall praise the wise, blah, 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 because they desire to not be mounted of gold. No matter how for George, he lost his fiancée. Jessica lost her loved one. Maria lost the love of her mother. Rest in peace, Beatrice. May your summer never be disturbed again. The winner of the Golden Witch, Beatrice. Of those 19, none solved the riddle of Golden Tyne. All 18 died when the seagulls cried. None were left alive. That was way too fast to read out loud. Is it me or was there more information packed into that than the whole fucking chapter up to that point? That was a lot. That was a lot to try to process as it was happening very quickly at the end there. So very importantly, not everyone died. 3 of them accepted the Golden Witch and were allowed into the Golden Land, and one of them is implied to be waiting around. Will she let him into the Golden Land? You don't think that's how this originally ended, Ellen? I'd be curious. Knowing what I know, oh boy, Tea Party, Picture Box, and Music Box are now unlocked. What? Okay. Tea Party. Please pull up a seat and wind down. Was your sojourn on Rokenjima a pleasant one? The Golden Witch has gifted you with an invitation to her tea party. I hope that you'll partake. All right. Let's do it. Purgatorio. I get the feeling we're going to answer a few questions. This did make it into the anime, by the way, I believe. Hey everyone, good job finishing Umineko no Nakukoro ni. Man, I still didn't have a clue what was going on when the story ended. So, just what happened? Was that basically the bad ending, where time runs out before the culprit can be exposed?
Definitely a bad ending.
I think so too. Beatrice's letter, which Maria-chan read on the first day, did tell us in advance to solve the riddle of the epitaph. We were all so busy trying to protect ourselves and look for the culprit that we didn't even take a shot at it.
Yes, that's true. If we had actually tried to solve the riddle, I'm sure things would have ended differently.
I wonder about that. Sharon-chan, you did a good job too. You don't have to be our waitress and serve tea. After all, this is a rap party. As a group of people who met a horrible fate, let's all get along and lick each other's wounds. Speaking of a horrible fate, Sharon beat the rest of us hands down, doesn't she? Beats the rest of us. She was such a beautiful character, so I thought she'd definitely survive until the very end. But she was killed right in the beginning, and on top of that, what was it? Half of her face was smashed, right? That's the worst.
That was my role, so there was no way around it.
Nei-san, it's nothing for you to worry about. Judging by the final epilogue, even Milady and the others met with a considerably tragic end. It seems that way. Yeah, seems, doesn't it? I think I remember seeing this horrible picture, kind of like my entire body had been eaten apart and dismembered. Holy fuck. Speaking of which, don't you think Kanon-kun's last moments were the coolest? Even though he had the tables turned on him, it was a showdown with the culprit, right? It's a whole bunch better than our confusing last moments. Though, in the end, I was no match for her.
Still, I think that Kanon-kun's death was a big hit. I mean, because of that, it became clear that a 19th person existed.
Yes. At that time, everyone's location was obvious. So it was impossible for anyone other than some unknown 19th person to kill Kanon-kun.
I did say it was Beatrice from the beginning, over and over. I don't want to believe it, but that does prove the culprit was a witch calling herself Beatrice. That's right. There were many strange things that happened which a human couldn't do. Ooh, only a witch could do things like Auntie Ava's locked room murder. A human couldn't do that. Ooh. Not only is it clear that a 19th person exists, but it is also obvious that this person holds a power that humans can't even imagine. In that case, I don't think there's anything wrong with calling this person Beatrice. We probably met at the very end. Met with the Golden Witch. That's why I keep telling you that Beatrice exists.
I mean, now that we know the entire fucking chapter was apparently written by Maria, it calls a lot of things into question about what did or didn't happen in that story. You know, obviously, if she's the narrator, then is the implication that Maria is writing Battler's internal monologue? Like, is the implication that she's writing all of the scenes? Like, or is there just like a summary, like a different, are we going to get to read her actual thing at some point? And it's different in some way? Did she literally novelize an entire day and then, anyway.
It all went bad because no one ever believed. Ooh. Even one of my witch friends says miracles won't happen if you don't believe. Ooh. That's right. Beatrice-sama is generous to those who respect her. I feel as if, despite the fact that horrible incidents kept occurring one after the other, Maria-sama wasn't in danger from Beatrice-sama until the end. Maria did believe in Beatrice from the very beginning. But then so did Kanonku and the others, so how do you explain why they were all killed? Beatrice-sama probably had her reasons. If the epitaph poem represented Beatrice-sama's resurrection ritual, then she needed many sacrifices. He must simply have been designated to be one of those. Shannon-chan, you met a horrible end. At the very least, I wish your death could have been more peaceful and pretty. Well, it's not like it hurt. Besides, as you can see right now, I'm perfectly fine, so don't worry.
Not like it hurt, huh? Interesting. I mean, I did kind of assume that it was sort of like a it happened type of a thing, you know, but Shannon proved this by stroking her cheek, which had been crushed during the story, and everyone laughed out loud, smiling. Well, it feels a bit weird saying this, but I was sure the story would be in the standard mystery genre. I'm a little surprised to find out that it's fantasy. After all, a story revolving around an inheritance set on a Western-style mansion shut away on an isolated island, I thought that was the classic formula for mysteries.
It's not fantasy. Beatrice exists.
Yes, we know. Beatrice-sama does exist.
That's right. Beatrice-sama does exist. And that's why we always say it in quotations. I hate to admit it, but I've got no choice. Because it's obvious that a 19th person, a witch, was involved.
She pulled off many things that would be impossible for humans. During the story, we thought of all kinds of things trying to deny that. But now I can say it clearly. Each one of them, all of them, were crimes impossible for a human. Those crimes would be impossible to carry out unless it was the witch Beatrice using all of the power magic could provide. I don't know if I believe that either. The culprit was a witch. That point is perfectly clear. Long live Beatrice-sama.
Everyone believed. I'm happy. Woo! Gods and witches might seem terrifying to people who are frightened of them, but I think they must have affection for those who believe in and respect them.
I think it's just as you say.
So now we're all done with playing with murder cases. Now's the time to pull ourselves together and try hard to solve the riddle of the epitaph, just like Beatrice said, right? Agreed. Beatrice will definitely be happy.
We all ignored that letter during the story, after all.
Even though it was thrust right in front of us, we almost completely ignored it. I kind of feel sorry for Beatrice, Soma. I have a memo with the epitaph on it. Let's all solve the puzzle. Let's all solve the puzzle.
This story probably went wrong ever since that time.
That may be so. Maybe we should have tried solving the epitaph's riddle from the beginning, like Beatrice almost said. Well, it's a little late now. Even so, let's try solving it now and see if the witch forgives us. Let's go. Let's try to solve the riddle of the epitaph. Here we are. Behold the sweet fish river running through my beloved home of old.
As Maria put her notebook on the table and opened to the page where the epitaph was written, everyone peered closely at it and had fun and lively discussion as they started guessing this and that about the riddle. Surrounded by the smell of the black tea and the freshly baked vanilla cookies, they spent the time comfortably and happily. Wait a second, you guys, Battler said in a tone that ruined the mood. His expression looked a little unhappy. What could he not like about all of this fun? I've been listening to you guys, and why did you all stop thinking? Why are you so sure that the witch was behind all this? Don't you realize that stuff that doesn't exist? With just those words, the happy atmosphere of the tea party disappeared in no time at all. George and Jessica, and Shannon and Cannon, and Maria, all of them stared blankly, wondering why Battler was saying such weird things. Even the foolish and arrogant Battler noticed he had said the wrong thing. Feels like Beatrice is narrating this. Well, come on. Isn't it clear that these crimes are impossible for a human? Yeah. This has to be an illusion Beatrice is showing him of his friends trying to convince him that, trying to make him, lull him into a false sense of security so that he'll admit that she's real so he can be let into the golden realm. But it's actually just like an illusion and he's about to dispel it and then she's going to be pissed off. That's where I think this is going. Yeah, none of the cases would have been possible for a human.
That's right. After all, wasn't it full of things that you couldn't explain using humans?
I don't understand what you're saying, Battler-sama. I'm the one who doesn't have a clue what you guys are talking about. Isn't it obvious that humans committed these crimes? There's obviously no such thing as witches, right?
Then, what about when I was killed in the storehouse and something horrible was done to half of my face? If the culprit was human, how could they have accomplished it?
Well, I mean, it's hard to imagine how they could have done something that awful. But that was the Rose Garden storehouse, right? I'm sure there were plenty of weird tools in there. Don't ask me, but they could have used some electrical tool, like a grinder or an electric saw, couldn't they? Okay, Battler. Then how do you explain Grandfather's disappearance from the locked room of his study? Grandfather disappeared all of a sudden, even though the door was sealed, remember? We talked about that during the story, too. It's not impossible that Grandfather used some trick to fool the receipt. It's also possible that he went out the window or fell out the window and Natsu locked it from the inside. I could think of a bunch of tricks you could use without relying on magic, you see?
That makes sense, but...
In that case, Battler-kun, how do you explain the way my parents were killed in the guest room? The door was sealed by the lock and chain. Naturally, the windows were sealed too. How would you suggest a human could have killed my parents? Well, you're right, we did have to leave that trick alone during the story. Anyways, there's a good chance that the culprit had the keys at least, and it was possible to look in through the crack of the door that the chain allowed. This is extremely far-fetched, but it's possible that some device was used through that crack. Or maybe they brought something out through the crack? Well, even though chains are incredibly simple, they're a big factor in constructing a locked room. But authors have done almost every possible locked room trick there is to do by now. If you bought just a few locked room mysteries from some bookstore or other, you could probably find some tricks that would fit perfectly. That's such a fucking obnoxious way of thinking, Battler, you son of a bitch. I hate that. I deal with people who communicate like this. Anyways, I can't think of one now, but I can state for a certain that a human could manage it somehow if they tried hard enough. Isn't that argument horribly irrational? It's just ridiculous to claim that it's possible for a human to do something even though you can't explain how. Why is that ridiculous? Why did all of you stop thinking? Even if it looks impossible, it has to be doable. Doesn't it always work like that? Yeah, you just gotta turn the chessboard around. Battler, you're the one being ridiculous. If you think a human could have done it, try explaining how. You can't, can you? And just because I can't explain it, that immediately makes the culprit a witch? With that argument, all of the unsolved crimes in the world could be resolved by saying a witch is the culprit.
Battler, you're sidestepping the issue and you aren't explaining anything. We aren't saying a human can't. We are saying a human can't do it. Therefore, the culprit is something that isn't human. And that something is a witch. And yet you keep arbitrarily deciding that witches are impossible, even though you can't explain anything. It's almost like humanity was during the Dark Ages. Like those fools who claimed that the Earth couldn't possibly be spinning. That the heavens had to be spinning around the Earth, even though they couldn't say how.
That kind of argument kind of pisses me off. So this is basically what you're trying to say. If I can't explain how a human could do it, then I must accept that the culprit is the witch Beatrice? It's not like we're forcing you. We were just wondering on what basis you can say such nonsense. Nonsense? Ooh, the gaslighting got to him when Kanon did it. I'm not saying Battler's like wrong overall, just the way he argued that particular point, like, yeah, you could definitely find a novel that's got the answers. It's like, well, you don't know that. Like, hey, is what I've been saying really that weird? Am I the one who's crazy? You guys are really starting to freak me out. Battler-sama, when I died in the boiler room, I was killed by a 19th person who shouldn't exist. Can you explain how a human could have done that? At that time, the locations of the 18 were well known. Even so, I was killed. We talked about that in the story as well. Kumasawa Bachan, for example. She said that she followed right after you'd headed down into the boiler room, but for all we know, that might have been a lie. She might have entered the boiler room with you and caught you by surprise. Or maybe when you stepped into the boiler room, you activated some kind of trap, one that might have been set up to hit you with one of those ice picks. After all, the stink of grandfather's body was coming from the incinerator. Someone was bound to come, so all the culprit had to do was set up a trap, and it would be more than possible for them to stay away from that place and create an alibi for the time of your death.
You talked about a trap in the boiler room, but what kind of trap?
That's right. After that happened, we all immediately ran over to the boiler room. We didn't find any kind of weird device like that. That is correct. Battler-sama, what kind of trap do you claim I was killed with? Do you claim? Well, I don't know that. But anyway, they must have pulled off some kind of trap, or maybe someone is lying, or... What about this? Kanon-kun, what if the whole thing was just you play acting? That's it, you were play acting. Aunt Ava and Uncle Hideyoshi were also play acting. They made the locked room themselves and were only pretending to be dead. Oh, that's insane. Battler, has your head been feeling alright?
Should I bring some cold drinks?
Don't look at me with those pitying eyes. I'm not saying something that crazy. I'm just pointing out possibilities that could have been used as tricks, alright? Look, isn't one of the cliches in mystery stories that the victims aren't really dead? Cliches? Okay, so when Kanon-kun was killed, we really did know for sure where the rest of us were. And let's assume that Kumasawa Bachan wasn't lying. But that only holds true for the survivors. If the culprit pretended to be dead, placed themselves together with the real victims to hide themselves, and then acted on their own later, then everything would be explained. I guess. Are you trying to say that Auntie Ava or one of the rest of them was the culprit? But Dr. Nanjo confirmed everyone's death as a doctor, remember? That's right. Dr. Nanjo checked all of the victims. Battler-sama, for your theory to work, wouldn't Dr. Nanjo have to be one of the culprits too? Could be. Yeah, that's right. Once you consider that Dr. Nanjo might have been one of the culprits and faked the proclamation of death, the whole story changes. See? That's also a cliche in mystery novels, isn't it?
But Dr. Nanjo was also killed.
About that. Hey, not everybody who was killed necessarily wasn't trying to die. Let's not forget that. That's right. Dr. Nanjo faked his death. I mean, there wasn't anyone except Dr. Nanjo who could examine corpses properly, and everyone was really confused then anyway. We didn't have any spare time to check and see if he still had a pulse. With this theory, any one of the dead people could have been walking around.
I think that it would have been hard for the 6 of us who died in the beginning to do that. After all, the shutter was closed, and there was a padlock that couldn't have been opened from the inside.
Yeah, Mom was holding on to that key. So was Mom one of the culprits too? Almost fucking certainly. Wait a sec. Maybe it was impossible for the first 6, but in the case of Aniki's parents, the door was only locked from the outside, so they could have opened it from the inside. That's right. After we left the room, maybe they jumped out the window and got to the boiler room first. Is that too much? Or maybe Dr. Nanjo made a mistake when examining the corpses? Look, he said it himself, right? He said that there's a very high probability of making a mistake when examining corpses. They disguised it well or prepared a substitute corpse or something and faked their own death. Let's leave the method or trick they used for later, and you see, it's not that hard to deny a 19th person existed. Much less a witch. At least that much is completely impossible.
I don't know why you've been trying so stubbornly to say that one of us is the culprit. In other words, you want to suspect one of your relatives?
That's not it. It's just, I can't easily accept that a 19th person existed. And even if one did, I think we should construct our arguments from the point of view that the culprit was a human. Witches are something you only start talking about in desperation at the very end, after everything else has been disproved. That's what I'm trying to say. I mean, come on, there's no way witches exist, right? Why have you all just been casually accepting that the culprit was a witch? I think it's great how your family love makes you hate the thought that someone close to you is a murderer, but is it alright to just brush things over like that? Don't you want to find that detestable culprit who killed so many people? Aniki, you want to avenge your parents, don't you? Jessica, you want to avenge Kanon-kun, and Kanon-kun, you want to avenge Shannon-chan, right? Shannon-chan, you should at least want to know who it was that killed you. Why have you all totally surrendered and decided that the culprit was a witch? What's wrong with all of you? The foolish and short-tempered battler tried to force his ignorance on the others by yelling at them. It's gotta be Beatrice or Maria narrating this, or they could be the same person, I'm not sure. One of these motherfuckers is Beatrice. That's why there's not a 19th person. It's either Maria or Kinzo doing some fourth dimensional bullshit. I'm not decided. However, everyone just looked at him pityingly, silently watching over him. Then the wise Maria laughed. The wise Maria. And pointed out Battler's mistake for him.
We're just astounded. All you've been doing is repeating this nonsense, thinking you figured something out, Battler. So what? And how would a human do it? Concretely, whenever we ask you those questions, all you say is, I just can't think of anything now, but some kind of device or something, using abstract words to run away and evade the topic. In fact, I want to ask you, Battler, why don't you believe in Beatrice? She exists, so why don't you believe?
Because she doesn't exist. Witches don't exist. There's no way. He was almost like a stubborn child, refusing for no reason. The pitying gazes quietly blanketed Battler, but they didn't reach his stubborn heart. You're acting just totally like a kid who can't have his way.
Battler-sama, I understand your feelings, but...
Beatrice-sama does exist. Battler-kun, why don't you believe? Look at how much circumstantial evidence there is. I don't accept the argument that if I can't explain it, it's all the witch. If you don't know how a light bulb shines, if you don't know the principle, does that mean it's all magic? It doesn't, does it? There's nothing that can't be explained without magic. All of this about witches and magic is just abdication of thought. Well, I mean, once you understand the magic, do you still consider it magic, or do you consider it merely technology? You just surrendered and gave up because you don't understand what happened. I'm right, aren't I?
Well, I'm not surprised, but it looks like you're the only one who's not going to believe no matter what. If even a single person doesn't believe, the miracle won't occur. So, if you don't rethink...
Oh, that's pretty important. I think that might in fact have just been the actual plot of the game spelled out explicitly just now. Battler has to believe, or the miracle won't occur. So this is all about making... This whole story is about making Battler believe, so the miracle can occur. How do you convince the most stubborn person in the world of something who's not going to believe it without concrete evidence? Now I see. I finally figured it out. So in other words, you guys want to get me to say that the witch exists, don't you? If everyone accepts this lie, it will become the truth. That's what this is all about, isn't it? Well, too bad. This is the one place I'm going to have to say too bad. That's no goddamn good at all. I refuse. You guys are all pressing me, and that is exactly why it's no goddamn good.
Why?
Sorry, but why don't you let me flip over the chessboard one last time? If you want to force me to accept that there's a witch, there's a really easy way. And it's not the roundabout way of saying humans can't do it, so it must be a witch. All you have to do is actually show it to me, the way a witch did it with magic. Furthermore, what Maria said earlier is what will really dig her grave. You said that if even one person doesn't believe, a miracle won't occur. But real miracles happen whether people believe in them or not, even if I alone don't believe. So any miracles or magic or witches that exist only because I believe in them are downright lies. Oof. 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 I could go into a trans reading on this, like, dissection right the fuck now. Battler really reminds me so much of Nate Best Guy Ever. This is what it's like to try to convince yourself. Like Battler is basically, I guess the super ego would be the one in what's his name? The psychology guy. He's basically the force of doubt. I will not believe anything that is not absolutely rectified through, anything that I won't believe something unless doubting it makes me incapable of living. I have to, I have to be thoroughly convinced. And I think about this a lot, so I'm going to break this, I'm going to go back through a chain of thought I've been having for a very long time for a second. Back when I was a Brony YouTuber, I covered an episode of the show called Leap of Faith. And the whole episode is about how Twilight Sparkle doesn't believe that the Pinky sense is real. Pinkie Pie has this spider sense that certain things happen to her body that predict things that are going to happen in the immediate future. And Twilight spends the whole episode studying this and cannot figure out why it's happening. But ultimately, she has to accept that it is happening. And that's what the point of the episode is even if you can't explain why, if something is happening, you have to accept that it's happening. And that's a major part of how I ended up accepting transition, is realizing that it doesn't matter that I don't get it. It doesn't matter that I don't understand why I'm trans, or like what is a woman, or what does any of it mean. It's just like when you get down to it, looking like or acting like a woman just makes me feel better. And I don't even know what that means precisely, but I do know that taking the estrogen helps, So like for me it's just as simple as, okay, well, doing this thing makes my life better, so I'm going to not question it. And there are some people who are like, I don't want to accept anything that way. Like, I don't want to accept anything I can't prove, but like, you have to. You have to live. You have to accept that we do not know why reality exists. We just don't. You have to accept certain things are just true. Like reality is real. If you decide it's not, I mean, you can go around believing like, well, maybe it's not, but like, what good is it going to do? It doesn't affect you in any way to believe that. So that's like the philosophical bedrock of this game is like, can you accept something that is evidently true, but you don't know why? And in Battler's case, he's just like, well, it's not necessarily evidently true. And I think he's probably right to, there's plenty of science that proves gender identity. What I mean by that is, when I like, it's not that there's not science that proves that it's a thing. It's just that, what is that thing? Like, what is the thing is the question. Like, there's no way to put a pin down on what is a woman in the first place. So like, how can you feel like a woman? How can you say like, well, I'm different? Like, it's not, well, the answer is you don't. It's not that you're feeling like a woman, it's that you're feeling like these hormones help you to accept yourself. But that doesn't, like, what that means in a social lens is like a reading. It's like a reading of your behavior. It's not innate to, like, taking hormones might make me act differently, but that different isn't necessarily like a way that all women also act. It's just the way I act on the hormones that's different. And you can call that now a woman if you want, because it makes more sense on a social level. But like, again, where we draw the lines is, it's social. It's mostly social. A woman is not a thing. It's a social construction. Each individual person is a person, and somewhere along the line we decided to categorize them, but like, they're not, the categories aren't real. Categories are just a description of a trend. It's a circle we're drawing around a certain data sector. So that's where like the conversation about like, well, a witch, right? Like, is there a 19th person? Maybe. Is that person a witch? Does that person exist? And the biggest thing about this game is the existence in the air quotes. That's what I'm the most fascinated by in this game, is how are we going to address breaking down the concept of existence? Does Beatrice exist? And why do people who believe she exists keep putting it in quotation marks? What are they trying to say by that? Like, they clearly don't think she exists in the traditional sense. They think she exists in a conceptual sense. And I think Battler's like, well, you cannot, as Hyrad is saying in chat, there are no concepts that exist universally. He's like, well, she can't just exist without existing. Where is she? Where is this bitch that supposedly exists? Like, that's what he's asking. It's an interesting question. Okay, continuing. Well, I guess I was at the end of that scene. The uneasy mood following Battler's ignorant rant was thoughtfully blown away by a very refreshing and light laugh. Whose laugh? Battler was surprised by the voice that he had never heard before. When he looked at George and Jessica, at Shannon and Kanon and Maria, he noticed that they had suddenly gone respectfully silent. It's definitely Beatrice narrating. She's here!
Beatrice! Wonderful. I haven't been able to meet such a charming human for quite some time.
Who are you?
So you don't even know the host of the tea party to which you were invited? Simply wonderful.
Her voice is fucking awesome. You are graced by the presence of the golden witch who has lived for 1,000 years, Beatrice-sama.
I am most honored to see you, Beatrice-sama.
Please forgive Battler-kun's ranting.
This guy's just stubborn, and he still doesn't understand the situation he's in.
She kind of racked out too. She might be the hottest one, actually.
It is fine. After 1,000 years, most witches get tired of living. Once in a while, it is nice to meet a man with backbone such as yourself. It is quite an honor to be present when Beatrice shows herself, Battler.
Now this is some shit. Are you really that desperate to make me believe that a 19th person is the culprit? This is starting to get interesting. And it's no goddamn good. You must be an illusion of the witch Beatrice, who's asserted by Maria and the others. What do you fucking mean by that? An illusion? And only when everyone believes in your existence will you finally be allowed to exist. You're that kind of fictional being, right? Okay, so he literally thinks she's Santa Claus. Like, he's willing to accept that they're... No, he's not willing to accept. He's just like, well, you can't exist. That's why you want to make me believe, too. You can't exist because I alone don't believe in you. Isn't that right?
Your power of understanding isn't bad for a common mortal who knows nothing of magic. I see, it seems that you were born with a strong magic-resisting power. The natural enemy of us witches. No matter how much we tip you upside down and shake you, you will never believe in us. Therefore, magic will fall short against you. That attitude of yours makes a great deal of sense.
I've got no clue what you're saying. It's very kind of you to go to all the trouble of showing yourself to us, but I don't believe you exist in the slightest. What a fucking way to... Like, I thought he was going to say this is like an actor you brought in. Like, you all hired someone off the street. He's just like saying to her face, I don't believe you're real. Like, I just don't believe that this is reality. I must be in a dream right now. You know, like, that's the level. I think he must say that at some point here, right? Surely. It's true that many strange things happen during those 2 days. Like Maria said earlier, even though I think that all of the tricks can be explained, I still can't lay out the practical details of each one. But that doesn't mean I'll surrender. I'm different from the rest of them, you see. I'm not like other girls. I'll never argue that it was the work of a witch just because I can't explain it.
My interest in you grows deeper. It will be worth my time to break you. You're just the kind of man I'd love to force into praising my name. You're just the kind of man I'd love to force into kissing my toes.
Talk all the Beatrice kind of freaky. Talk all the nonsense you want. I deny you exist. All of the events can be explained with human tricks. There's no room for even a speck of magic or witches.
Wonderful. This is the perfect form of diversion from 1,000 years of boredom. I will now spend 200 hours explaining to you why you're wrong. Then let me ask you. A short while ago, you said that using the crack in the door would be sufficient to kill Eva and Hideyoshi, right? Explain how you would do that using your human tricks. Suddenly jumping right into the toughest part, are you? Does that mean that this is the trick you're proudest of, Miss Real Culprit?
Beatrice shook her golden pipe. and 7 colors of gentle smoke trailed out of the end. The smoke quickly obscured the surroundings, and they were suddenly in the hallway of the mansion. So now she's just doing magic in front of him. In front of their eyes, a slightly open door secured by a chain. Yes, it was the entrance to the room where Eva and Hideyoshi had been killed. Nice trick. Now then, show me what you would do through this small crack, battler. They probably had some device to shoot those ice picks. If they used that, how would you aim at Eva over on the bed when you can't see that far through this crack? And how would you reach Hideyoshi in the bathroom with the door shut? Damn it. There is a crack. There should be some way. Well, you see, you just gotta let Clank do that level. If it's too small for you to get through the entrance, you just gotta let Clank do that level. And it'll be a Clank level. You know what I mean? If you can't think of one, allow me. Oh? Go on, how would a great witch do it then? Come on, let's see your little trick.
Battler, you're being rude to Beatrice.
It is fine, quite fine. What a charming man. It'll make it all the more enjoyable to break him. You really want to make me kiss your toes that much? Only if I surrender. But watch, I'll definitely expose this trick, and then I'll make you kiss my ass instead. Oh shit, he's like, nah, I'm getting tongued. You think you're into feet shit? I'm into rim jobs, bitch, and guess who's going first? What a charming man. You know, I understand the charm now. I shall remember that promise. But the promise to rim his asshole or the other part? Weak witches kiss the behinds of demons to gain power. Because there is no greater oath of total submission. Wow. I hope we meet one of these weak witches that literally kisses demon ass. It is words like those that give me the desire to subjugate you. Was she at one point a weak witch herself? Did she have to kiss demon ass to work her way up? Paying no mind to Battler's crude ranting, Beatrice once again waved her golden pipe. Yes, for that golden pipe was her precious magic wand. Oh, the pipe is the wand! Brilliant! I love her outfit. This pose rules. She looks adorable. I want to give her a big hug. Squish them big old titties against my chest. Come, arise, children. I am the guide of purgatory. Wield the 7 stakes which forgave the deadly sins. Guided by those magic words which sounded like a psalm, 7 stakes gathered. They were the stakes of the 7 demons, symbolizing the deadly sins of sinful people. Beelzebub and Asmodeus, come, forgive their sins. Release the spirits of the sinners. What? The stakes of Beelzebub and Asmodeus responded to Beatrice's call. The 2 demonic stakes burst into motion like billiard balls struck by a cue and were sucked in through the crack of the door. Then came the sound of them deflecting repeatedly off the walls of the room, making a sound like a woodpecker. And finally, a pleasant sound could be heard. It was a small, satisfying sound, like the one heard when someone is chopping firewood and the falling axe neatly and easily slices through the wood. It was the sound of the 2 stakes burying themselves deep into Eva and Hideyoshi's foreheads. Right through the middle. Want to see? They had definitely heard 2 sounds like someone's forehead being split open. Battler wasn't permitted to see it since he was on the other side of the door. But those 2 had died again, and this second time they lay not an inch apart from where they had lain the last time, with the exact same blood spray as before. You must be crazy. This is insane. You can't kill people with this insanity. I most certainly can. I can kill them just like this. Suddenly, they were no longer in the hall, but seated at the tea party they had started from. Everyone but Battler was sitting meekly, but Kanon was moaning, fresh blood dangling from his mouth. Such bad manners for a tea party. Satan's stake was buried deep into Kennon's chest. Kanon-kun! Kanon-kun! Damn it! Battler was the only one getting agitated. George, Jessica, Shannon, everyone else was meekly hanging their heads like students being told off by their teacher. Kanon, you were captivated by a trifling anger and tried to disturb my banquet. Oh, this is the part where she reminds everyone else. Much like me telling everybody at the start of this live stream that they have to make money or else the stream doesn't come out on time. This is the part where Beatrice berates everybody else for not convincing Battler that she's real. Like, y'all all know he has to believe in me. So this is everyone's fault. None of y'all did your job. Time for you all to suffer again. Kanon, you were captivated by a trifling anger and tried to disturb my banquet. Your deadly sin is being easily captivated by anger. Cleanse yourself, regret, and do it over.
Beatrice-sama, please forgive him. I think Kanon-kun has repented enough.
Wonderful. I am generous to those who respect me. Cut the crap! Don't think for a second that this piss-poor show of theatrics will convince me of your sorry existence. Like hell, you're a 1,000-year-old witch. Your tricks aren't 1,000 years old. At best, they're the accumulation of 100 years of cliches that the mystery world created. They're not magic. No way are they magic. All of these crimes can be explained with human tricks. You would explain my 1,000 years with 100 years by humans? Good, good. That's why I like you.
Foolish Battler.
Stop yourself, Battler. Beatrice-sama is someone you can't go against. Shannon started moaning, holding her cheek. Maybe she had a toothache. But it didn't look like anything like a toothache. A slight redness spread across the cheek Shannon was holding. It looked like that redness was causing Shannon's unbearable pain. She started to press her nails into her cheek, and drops of sweat appeared all over her body. Shannon! Shannon, hang in there, hang in there! What's going on? Damn it, what the hell is that red stuff? Her face is just like falling off. It expanded rapidly, covering half of Shannon's face. Then the stupid dunce Battler finally realized. Please, Battler-kun, please believe in Beatrice-sama. I beg you. Because he won't believe. Because he won't believe. The magic is wearing off. For the first time in his life, Battler heard that sound like a pomegranate splitting. The red spray even landed on Battler's face. How sad. Shannon's face had been split in half, and her last horrible moments in that storehouse had been repeated once again. Shannon! Shannon! Damn you! Damn you! Stop it! Stop it! Stop it! Don't humiliate the dead! Don't humiliate the dead! This time, red patterns began to spread across George's entire body. It was like the beautiful cloud drawn by milk when it is poured into black tea. They slowly spread out and extended across his entire body. As they grew more saturated in color, they seemed to give George increasingly greater pain. Looking at those bizarre patterns, Battler was petrified as he frantically thought with his pitifully clumsy imagination about the nature of the strange deaths that George and the others had experienced. Before long, that redness reached the nearby Jessica as well. Is this going to be how they actually died and disappeared? Did they just like melt into nothing? Stop, stop, stop! What did Aniki do? What did Jessica do? Just stop! Battler!
Don't tell the Don't let her bring your spirit. Deny her. Erase her. As long as at least one person denies her, she's an illusion that can't exist.
Okay, so Jessica actually, low-key, is like, you know what? Fuck this bitch. Are you okay, Jessica? What? Aniki? But George was no longer shaped like a person. He looked like the pile of leftover meat after the good, delicious meat has been scraped off to be cooked. What a fucking analogy. Zura Senpai with $10 says, all hail the Golden Witch. Absolutely indeed. Absolutely indeed. The only traces left of his time as a human were the shape of his lower jaw and rib cage. And it was clear that Jessica, who was recovered with a steadily strengthening redness, was approaching the same fate.
Battler, quick, believe in Beatrice. If you don't, everyone's magic will wear off.
Maria, it's all over your body too. I resurrect all the dead with my magic. But as long as you don't believe, that magic will hold no true power. But I'm sure that a man of your caliber won't be broken by something like this, right?
We didn't want to doubt our friends. We refused to face reality and gave in to the witch. But I know you. I know you won't. Give in to that witch. Just go!
How sad. Jessica met the same end. Just like George, she ended up like a butcher's leftovers. Broken apart, melted, and all mixed up so you couldn't tell which was George and which was Jessica anymore.
Battler, don't cry. Beatrice will resurrect the dead over and over. So there's nothing to be sad about. So even if we die, we're still just fine.
The redness began eating into the whole of Maria's body. When he saw this, the foolish battler screamed out loud. Squirt. You bitch, you won't get away with this. I'll never forgive you. You call yourself a witch? You call this magic? I'll deny you with every last fiber of my being. I don't care what happens. There's not a chance in hell I'm ever gonna accept you. If you want me as an enemy that bad, I'm gonna make sure you get what's coming to you. I'll get you for this. You're gonna pay for this. You're gonna fucking pay. You're gonna regret making Ushiromi a battler your enemy. I'll deny you no matter what. Every last impossible thing, I'll explain it all with humans. I'll erase every cell of you from this world. Good luck with that, buddy. Umineko no Naku Koronini. Rondo of the Witch and Reasoning. Oh my god, we fucking did it. We made it to her credits. Oh my god. I honestly didn't know that we were that close. Oh my god, this song is fucking hard. Yo, hey. Peep the style of the kids checking for it. The number one suggested is you motherfucking for it. Done with the bullshit, old with the new shit. Cool it, switch it, go with the bullshit. Pull up on your genital, swap them. Kill a couple cops in, kill another couple cops in. Hey, storm Fort Knox and kill everybody. Like the Golden Witch. What the Golden Witch would do to beat that bitch with the golden snitch. Hey. Yo. This song goes hard as fuck. Ono Daisuke, I know that guy. Mugi Hito, I don't know that guy. Kusugi Jurota, I don't know that guy. Shinohara Emi, sounds familiar. Marina Inoue, she's very famous. Ito Miki, might know. Hirose Masashi, I don't know. Suzumuru Kenichi, I don't know. Koyama Rikia, I know him. Tanaka Atsuko, I don't remember. Koshimizu Ami, I definitely know her. Horie Yui, super know her. Wait, that was Yui Horie as Maria? That makes so much sense. Ohara Sayaka is Beatrice. I know I've heard her in something, but I don't remember what. Lambda Delta. Did Lambda Delta have dialogue in this? Where was Lambda Delta in this? Is she gonna show up after the credits? Is that why she's in there? Was that just like a little flash forward in the credits there? Rest in pieces, Tanaka Atsuko. Oh no. Indeed. Oh, she just died like like 9 days ago. What the fuck? I didn't know about this. Age 61 after being diagnosed with an illness a year before. But they wouldn't specify the illness as per her wishes. Apparently she was best friends with Kikuko Inoue, whom I have seen a few times. Oh right, Atsuko Tanaka is... Somebody had told me that Motoko Kusanagi's voice actress died, but I did not realize... I didn't, remember who was Motoko Kusanagi's voice actress. That's deeply unfortunate. She's fucking Bayonetta. She was the voice of Bayonetta. In Japanese, obviously. Motoko. I'm trying to find... Who was it that she played in this game? I must have stopped paying attention when her name came on screen. You speak well, battler. That's the kind of thing that can divert me from my 1,000 years of boredom. Come, explain. Try explaining it with your so-called human tricks, and learn how lowly humans are. She was Kyrie? Oh, man. Now I'm going to think about that every time I hear Kyrie's voice. The Pusha asked how literature is Umineko. I would say it's definitely genre fiction, but it's very good. It depends on what you think makes something literature, I guess, but I would definitely say that it is literature. Come explain. Try explaining it all with your so-called human tricks and learn how lowly humans are. Let's see you try to use what humanity has built up in 100 years to oppose my 1,000. It will make forcing you to submit all the more enjoyable. It's definitely been more than 100. I mean, even fucking Sherlock Holmes was more than 100 years ago. Whatever. So, tell me, Battler, what about Maria's letter? How the 6 were killed? The shutter? The receipt seal? The locked room with the chain? Kanon in the boiler room? Genji and the others in the parlor? Natsuhi's suicide? The riddle of the epitaph? The location of the hidden gold? Come, Battler, why don't you show me the power of humans? Alright, now where's Lambda Delta? A new trophy. Question mark has been added, and new elements may be accessed from the title screen. Okay. We've still got a little bit of exploring to do, it seems like. It's just called question marks. Okay, this is going to be where Lambda Delta comes in. I have to piss. I'll be right back. Sherlock Holmes came out like exactly 100 years before Umineko takes place. I was thinking about when it came out. I wasn't thinking about the fact that it takes place in the 80s, but that does make sense. If you think of it as like the 100-year anniversary project of Sherlock Holmes. I just want to react to what we just saw real quick. Because as I've alluded to, having seen the Umineko anime, I was aware that there is a huge element of metatext to this story, but still, it's nuts the way that it's handled. That like the entire first chapter is an in-universe thing, and then at the last second, it dumps all this like crazy info on you that lets you know that you really truly are not even close to understanding the situation, and then just does this whole crazy exterior meta storyline that like simultaneously convinces you that a witch must be real, right? Because otherwise, how are we in this situation at all? And yet also kind of calls it into question weirdly, where it's like, well, maybe I don't know, maybe we're like inside someone's mind and like all of this is like going back through memories or something. Like it's such a trip the way that it's the only picture we have is this creepy picture of Maria. All right, amazing. No, okay, there's a few more pictures. This is interesting the way this is all laid out. I'm guessing it's dependent on how early in the story the picture happens, maybe, as we go through the rounds of the story. No, that's not correct based on these images. I don't know. I don't know how these are grouped. You got all the different faces there. That's cute. But yeah, so like I was aware of the metatextual element going into it, but I really just want to talk about how much more like how interesting the way it's handled is, because even in the anime, and I haven't read the Higurashi visual novel, so forgive me if this is terribly different, but the way the anime was handled for Higurashi was basically like you're watching some friends hang out and then they all murder each other, and then suddenly the start of the next episode you're back in time, the friends are hanging out again, except it's a different situation, and then they all kill each other again and it's a different situation, they kill each other for different reasons, and this just keeps happening. And like in the anime, the entire first season never really answers any questions as to why. Like, is this the same story being retold? Like, how are these connected? It just feels like you're learning a little bit more about the characters and their situation in each round, but not that there's anything connecting them necessarily until you get to like the 5th arc at the end of the first season, where like the characters start to realize that they remember some of this shit, that like stuff is happening, and they're like, wait a minute, what is going on here, you know? And then you get to the 2nd season, and in that season we finally find out that one of the characters, spoilers if you haven't seen Higurashi, but and I'm not going to tell you which character, one of the characters has been experiencing like hundreds of thousands of years of being trapped in a time loop where they keep experiencing the death of all their friends and then restarting. And they've known the whole time that this is happening, but they just have been completely like mind broken and to doing anything about it. They're just like letting it happen because they don't know how to do anything about it. And then when the other characters start to like have memories from before the loops is when she starts being able to work with them such that they can stop it and finally escape. And that's what the game is about, is escaping that time loop situation. So going into Umineko, there's kind of an assumption that it's the same thing. That it's Aggie says Endless 8 indeed. I would say the fact that they did the anime the way they did was probably influenced by Higurashi, which existed already as even the anime existed. It was very popular. When Umineko came out, everybody assumed it's going to be the same way. Like you assume it's going to be going back through a time loop, watching everyone die over and over again. The question is there going to be like a character who knows that it's happening? Is there going to be like this exterior meta element? And the way this game reveals that to you, and this again, it was copied in the anime as well, is like the first arc ends, and then before you get into the next one, there's this whole weird interstitial outside of time. When is this happening? Where is this happening? How is this happening? Like truly mindfuck situation of the characters having this conversation in a way that, again, the situation itself implies the existence of a witch. Like, how could any of this happen without the witch? And yet, Battler is like doubling, tripling down. And the question is like, is he unreasonable? Is he just being stupid? Or is he getting at something deeper, you know? And how will the characters repeat their way through this cycle in order to discover that? Let's see if this answers any of those questions. Let's see if they explain the mechanics of how this is actually going to happen at all in this. Because now we're going to get to the final meta depth layer, or at least the final one in this part of the story. What sort of tea should I prepare next? This game is all about spilling the tea and drinking the tea. It's all about tea, you know, drama. I'll talk a little more after this segment. You have free choice of any brand that ever was throughout the ages.
Dried plum tea. Those dried plums that go for 200 yen a pack.
For 1,000 years I have been fond of black tea, but I did not know of such a thing. I will never tire of living in this world. She really is just like me.
Beto, you don't have to display such hostility. I am just a wandering witch.
Hey, it's Ellen, the Wandering Witch. Wait, are you the Wandering Witch in our Discord? Somebody's the Wandering Witch in there.
I didn't come with the intention of violating the rules of your territory.
There is not even a sliver of hostility. I am just terribly concerned about seeing that the legendary witch Lady Burncastel is well attended to.
You misunderstand. I am powerless.
Before a witch such as you, with the dreadful power to kill a person 100 times over, I am completely powerless. That a powerless witch like you possesses a power that none can approach is what is truly terrifying. After all, you fended off that great witch, Lady Lambda Delta, as a lone piece.
I only won an endurance contest.
She simply got tired. That is not what Lady Lambda Delta said, though. Too much humility can be unseemly, Lady Burncastel. Wait, was Burncastel credited in the credits? Lambda Delta was, but...
That girl has dreadful power. The power to kill a person without fail. However, there is no such thing as without fail in this world.
Just as no matter how many times you fight, one can never make it zero. That girl has the power to bring that closer and closer to virtually zero and give rise to a virtually absolute certainty. So Gojo. She's Gojo. Satoru Gojo. I hope I never have to fight such a terrifying witch again. However, you have a power that manifests without fail except for Zero. Although you say there is no such thing as without fail in this world, you possess an infallible power yourself. How very terrifying. The power to kill a person and... Wait, so it manifests anything other than Zero? I wasn't calling Burncastel like Gojo, I was calling Lambda Delta like Gojo, Ellen. The She wasn't describing her own power. Her power is apparently she can make anything happen except for nothing, which is hilarious. That's what it seems like they're explaining. The power to kill a person endlessly. I think you're the more terrifying one. Such jests. From your point of view, mine is but a trifling power. The phrase flattery will get you nowhere was made for this situation. Call it payment for my stay here. I am a fleeting traveler who crosses the fragments, the kakera, continually running from boredom. I simply came around because I'd heard that you'd started something interesting. Crosses the fragments. Crossing the fragments would be like a sick name for a podcast or something. Rest assured, I will leave of my own accord as soon as you start to bore me. I am deeply and humbly delighted to have the great Lady Burncastel as an observer. And so, your impression? Lambda Delta is terrifying because of her cruelty. However, she was a girl I could understand. You do seem to possess affection, but I can't understand you at all. That's why you're much more terrifying than her. I am fickle by nature. Do forgive me. Besides, I believe you also enjoy trusting your fate to the roll of fickle dice. Is that not so, Lady Burncastel? When I roll the dice, I have a roll I clearly want to get. Unlike you. You, on the other hand, anticipate all outcomes. And whatever the role might be, you're never disappointed. Oh my god. Beatrice is... I'm so glad I picked her as a namesake, even the way people talk about her. Whatever role the dice shows you, you are satisfied without fail. In that sense, you far surpass me. It is my special skill. You're one I really don't want to fight with. I'm the type of person who gets excited by situations that are bad. Not always, but sometimes, like when a situation crosses a threshold into being like, this is now drama, I feel more alive. So I understand where Beatrice comes from in this sense. Inside of you, there's nothing but Zero. That's why I can't win against you with my power. That's because she doesn't exist, in quotation marks. The worst matchup. Perhaps Lambda Delta, on the other hand, has a good matchup against you, since she would likely be able to kill your endlessness. Truly, tea is best drunk in the company of a witch. It's never boring. Good to hear. Boredom is the sole poison that can kill me. So don't kill me, alright? Lady Beatrice, Endless Witch. If such is your wish, I shall show you an even better time. So she's the Golden Witch and the Endless Witch so far. Is Bird Battler though? No, Bird is not like Battler. Bird is... I don't know who he's like in this story, if anybody. Probably more like George than Battler. By just overall nature, but not really. Maybe a little bit. Somewhere between the two of them. Battler's, like, annoying to me, though. I don't find Battler, like, to be... Like, not that he doesn't seem like a decent guy, but I would not be as interested in him personally as Beatrice is. If such is your wish, I shall show you an even better time. In that case, wouldn't it be best if I brought the next chessboard in right away? It seems that the next tale would do more for you than a refill of tea. Just wait for a moment. Something troublesome seems to have taken a liking to you. I'd really like to lend you my power, but as you just heard, that girl's power and mine have a very bad matchup. Who is she fucking talking to? Unfortunately for you. Me? Are you talking to me, Bernka? Are you talking to me? But you really are pitiful, so I'll help you out just a bit. First of all, about the girl. She does have an existence that goes by the name of Beatrice, but that doesn't necessarily that she is a woman with an individual body. See, she doesn't fucking exist, god damn it. Do you understand what I mean? In other words, she's not some human. Maybe she was made up by everybody in the Ushiromiya family. Like, she's a shared delusion that they all have to agree on because it obviates any of their individual guilt, and all of them are guilty. Like, every single one of them killed another one of them, and so they have to create the idea of the witch so that nobody is as guilty as anybody else or something. Her existence is a personification of the rules of this world. To beat her, you have to expose the rules of this world and unravel them. This can be likened to learning the rules of chess by watching a few games. First, take a look over the chessboard and notice the movements and rolls of the pieces. Then look for the conditions required to win at her game. When you've managed to reveal all of these things, her heart will be exposed. After that, you can rip it apart or crush it as you please. But what if I want to hug it? I am being quite generous. Back when I was once human, it took me 100 years to realize even this much. So this is her talking about, this is Rika, right? This just is Rika. Like, she got stuck in that time loop for so long, she became a witch at the end. And now she's called Burnt Castell. Like, that's her ascended witch name or something. I'm pretty sure she is Rika from Higurashi. This is my meager farewell gift to you, the pitiful one captured by Beato. It is a single spoon. Not quite? Okay. A spoon can be used for more than just drinking soup. You can use it to dig through the prison you're locked in, or as a weapon to gouge the witch's eyes out. Okay, sure. I'll be sure to use the spoon. Of course, you can also use the spoon to continually sip the watery soup inside your eternal prison. Don't get the wrong idea. I have no intention of becoming your ally. I do feel empathy for you, but I won't help you. It's like how someone sitting in front of a television cannot reach the characters on screen no matter how much they yell at them. That's how you can tell I am a witch, you see? I intend to enjoy the endless tales that Beato is going to weave until I tire of them. But I'm sure that alone won't hold my interest. That's why I'll lend you my power. It's all so that I don't get tired of this. I am the cruelest witch in the world. No matter who the opponent may be, I'll absolutely make them surrender. Even if that's Beatrice, the endless witch. You are my game piece. Give it your best shot. I'll give you advice sometimes, out of her sight. Don't bore me, okay? Spoon. I got a spoon, y'all. Confusingly, there was no Lambda Delta, only Burnt Castell, but Lambda Delta was in the credits and Burnt Castell wasn't. I don't really understand why that is. New game board. The next episode has been unlocked. Incredible. Everything's blue in the background now. All right, let's look at the episode 1 character sheet. Now that it's all said and done. Wait, they're all alive though. I don't get to see what they were like at the end. But wait, human side, witch side, execute and resurrect. Okay, so humans, so witch side. All right, Beatrice, Beatrice. The Golden Witch who has lived for 1,000 years. She has already surpassed the limits of humans, and it is said that she will appear in response to a human summons, just as demons do, to lend them her power for a price. Likes black tea and ice cream, hates boredom and those who deny her existence. Hey, I've been drinking black tea all day, and I had ice cream too. Bernkastel, Berun Kasuteru. The Witch of Fragments, who has lived for 1,000 years. It is said that she lives... Ooh, Witch of Fragments. That's a cool fucking name. That's a really cool name. So she's the Witch of the Wandering Witch and the Witch of Fragments, who has lived for 1,000 years. It is said that she lives in a world where concepts like fate and possibility can be made visible, observes the fate of humans, and sometimes interferes. In other words, sometimes she is you, and is also your only friend. Understand? Kinda. Also, he says she sounds like me. In that one sense, yes, she is in fact you, and also your only friend, understand? She likes wine and spicy foods, and hates boredom and those who never learn. Sometimes she is you? Okay, that's a fucking hell of a thing to say. Did I just kill her by clicking execute? What did I do? By continuing to think, I live on for all eternity. In other words, if I stop thinking, I can die at any time. However, I can revive whenever I want if I start thinking again. So I'm fickle and inconstant. I live as I like, die as I like, revive as I like. Huh. If I stop thinking, I can die at any time. This is what my brother Victor, when he has panic attacks, it's because every time he doesn't have a thought for a second, he feels like he just died. But I'm more like this in that I can just stop thinking, die, come back when I start thinking again, and be like, yeah, okay, whatever, I'm back. Execute the Golden Witch. It is futile for a human like yourself to dream of killing me. Even if you fire bullets at me, they will merely bounce back as though by a mirror and strike you down. However, there is one single way to kill me. You grasp this method in the palm of your hand. I doubt a mediocre fool like you could ever do it, of course. I'm guessing it's the mouse that I've got here that will guide me through the story. Okay, so now I can kill everybody else, right? Bam. Yeah. Okay, so it will just tell me. Found in the parlor with a weapon resembling an ice pick having been rammed into her calf and her face smashed. On the 8th twilight, gouged to like and kill. Corpse found inside the rose garden store. Oh, we already know about him. Kanon with a weapon resembling an ice pick. Oh, we know about him too. Who? Here we go. This man, Genji. Found in the parlor with a weapon resembling an ice pick having been rammed into his stomach and his face smashed. On the 6th twilight, gouge the stomach and kill. Maria. Missing. But it looks like she turned into goop. And only her leg remained. And maybe some parts of her arms. And a little bit of her head. Like there's some goop that stayed behind. Maybe. Let's see. Jessica. Turned mostly to goop. Some legs survived, though. Missing. Even though she was given a precious invitation to the Golden Land, a single idiot refused to believe in the witch, and all of the magic went away. Afterwards, she was chewed to bits by demons and went to hell. Well, that's very specific. So, in the timelines like the ones we just experienced, where you cannot convince Battler the witch exists, his friends just go to hell and get eaten by demons, I guess. George, missing, even though he was finally reunited with everyone and we were all getting along so well in the Golden Land. All of the magic was spoiled thanks to a stubborn idiot. Afterwards, he was chewed to the bone by demons and went to hell. Yep, him too. More of his body seems to have survived. Nazi got shot in the head, found shot to death in front of the witch's portrait. How impudent of her to challenge a witch with nothing but a mere gun. Of course she'd end up like this. Oh, we've got Beatrice on the human side as well. That's interesting. We get the same message though. Ushiro Ava dead. Rudolph dead. All right, I think we've seen everybody else, right? Resurrect. Oh, I can bring them back too. Does it tell me anything different? No. No, they're back if you go to the other page. Okay. Well, that was fun. You know, just like knock them off like that. All right, tips. All right, the epitaph of the portrait. Behold the sweet fish river running through my beloved home of old. You who seek the golden land, follow its path downstream in search of the key. As you travel down it, you will see a village. In that village, look for the shore the two speak of. There the key to the golden land sleeps. You who laid hand upon the key must journey as follows to the golden land. You who laid your hand upon the key. Is that me? Like, am I the one whose hand is upon the key? / Burn Castell, who is also me? Witch's score sheet. Okay, this was at the end. Battler denies the existence of the witch. Sawed-off rifle Kinzo spec. I don't remember this. A sawed-off cut-barrel custom version of a certain rifle which was popular bestseller during the Wild West. The modification dramatically increases the portability and old-school charm in exchange for devastating drop in range. In addition, consecutive shots can be fired as quickly as a pistol if one works the lever action skillfully enough. Furthermore, the one-handed reload made possible by its characteristic lever handle should be irresistible for any true lover of old westerns. To match with Kinzo's personal preferences, it was made to handle 45 long Colt bullets. The gun holds 4+1 shots. 4+1. Okay, because the one you can have in the chamber. That's the 7 stakes of purgatory. Stakes containing the 7 magics that represent the 7 deadly sins. They bury into the desired location on the target with unparalleled accuracy, following their user's orders. Since they flit about at ultra-high speeds and change their trajectories freely by bouncing off walls and the like, they have no blind spots and will hit their targets without fail no matter what. No matter what form of cover they might be hiding behind. Additionally, their power can be tuned to the part of the body they will strike. Extremely powerful as weapons, but they cannot target pure people who have not committed one of the 7 deadly sins, or those who have a strong resistance to magical power. Interesting. They cannot target pure people who have not committed one of the 7 deadly sins. So, I mean, how could that even be possible to not have done any of them? But this means somebody's not going to be able to get killed by this, right? Like, Kanon is like Wrath, I guess. Ava was probably Creed. I don't remember what each thing they got was. I'm gonna bet that Hideyoshi was like Lust or something. No, that would have to have been the dad, Battler's dad. He's the slut. Gluttony. He's fat. He had the gluttony one. Yeah. Maybe. Chapter 2 is shorter than 1 by 10,000 words, but it's still 131,000 words long. God damn. Like, it's not just that each part is the length of a novel. Each part is the length of a thick novel. Like each one is like a fucking full fantasy novel length of writing. Score sheet. Oh yeah, it does say what was the demons, right? Yeah, the stake of Beelzebub and the stake of Asmodeus, and the stake of Mammon, the stake of Satan, the stake of Lucifer, stake of Belphegor, stake of Leviathan. I guess I would have to know what each of them represents to be sure what sin they committed. But it's interesting that Kumasawa, Nanjo, and Genji were all associated with a specific sin as well. What sin would Genji be? Just pride? I feel like a lot of them have pride, though. Kumasawa would be... I'm trying to remember all the fucking deadly sins. Whatever. I can work out this part later, I'm sure. Maybe the Grimoire will tell me. No. That's just like translation notes. Tips, configuration, picture box, music box. Okay. I think we looked at everything. It's almost 1 o'clock in the morning, so I should probably just go ahead and say we're wrapping this up. It's been about 3.5 hours, right? I expected it to be a little bit longer to get through all that. But that was an epic ending of that chapter. Like, I don't necessarily remember the anime like that well. But like I remember all of the essential elements of what happened there being in the anime, but it was definitely a lot more engaging to read it. I mean, just the fact that the anime, like the first 5 episodes contain everything we just saw. So the like 10 or 11, 12, no, more than that, right? It would have been how many hours of fucking gameplay did it take us to get through just these? This is the 6th stream. They've been at least 3 hours each. So that would be 18. So over 20 hours of reading that we just did was crammed down into just less than 5 episodes of anime. And like I am impressed with how much the anime actually did cover in such a short time. But yeah, it's I think the real reason they never got to make a season 2 of the anime is that they had skipped over too many things that would have been necessary once you got to the Answers arc. And like they probably didn't really understand that at the time because they didn't realize how meticulous this book actually is, like how much of it matters, which is all of it. So it probably just wasn't possible to keep going from that point, and have it keep making sense because there was just too much detail left out. That again, like it doesn't feel like it matters in the course of reading it. Just if you're just reading it, it's like a standard story. But then when you realize that later on, it's going to reuse everything that that you cannot just leave stuff out. And as long-winded as it is, and sometimes they do just like say the same thing 4 different ways, and that can be a little bit annoying. I think it's all really well written, and it is interesting. And a lot of the time, it hammering that stuff in is just so you'll remember it because there is so much to remember, So, yeah, I think it's definitely obviously better this way, and I don't think it's unnecessarily long. I think it is appropriately long. It just is that kind of story. It's just an incredibly fucking long story that doesn't really make sense outside of being told this way. It's so well built to be a visual novel. The way the music is always timed out, the dramatic way images, cross the screen and everything. Like it's built just right to the specifications of its medium. And it's a type of story you wouldn't even want to try to tell in anime, of like literally real-time experiencing an entire day. That's what this chapter was a real-time experience from like when the characters woke up until midnight in real time all fucking day. Which is a very interesting take on a story, and again, not something you could really do outside of like a semi-literary medium too convincingly or like keep it interesting. I feel like it ended in such a surprising place because like with the anime, I had actually, let me back up what I'm saying. Part of why mystery stories tend to lose me is that I am not usually like there's not usually enough to go on to really try to make a theory, to try to understand it. And like I've always hated when characters explain all of the logic for their theory that is not going to be correct, because it makes it feel like all of that was useless time, and like I could have gone through all that in my own head. This game doesn't have that feeling. It can have moments where it starts to feel like that's kind of happening, but you always feel like it's going to come back again later. Like they're not having these theories for no reason. There's going to be a reason that they had those specific theories. And there's also so many theories. It's so open-ended. It leaves itself so open to interpretation, especially the way the first chapter ended. Where like we don't even know if the characters died. Apparently some of them may or may not have turned into goo. It seems like everybody's soul was kind of transported to like an other dimension where they're like in a waiting room for Battler to accept reality / not reality, and until he does, we have to like replay the scenario over and over again. Like it's such a weird, trippy way to end it. Then introducing the witches and their extra metatextual realm that they existed. Oh, this was something I wanted to touch on, which is that is a big influence on me in I think I pitched this on that stream where I was talking about a bunch of books that I've read, or that I've partially written rather. And one of them is The Waypoint Witch. And Waypoint Witch, obviously being also a witch story, takes some influence from this, but namely in that there's like a mode of psychic communication where people can go into like a slowed down version of time inside of their thoughts. So it's like you can be thinking at like 1/7 time, meaning you're having 7 times as many thoughts as you would normally inside of a second, but you have to use like a magic thought channel. And when you're in that thought channel at that slowed down time, you also can like access other people's thoughts in a way. It's basically meant to be a metaphor for internet communication. I suspect that's also what it is in this story, is like, well, this is what it's like when you open up instant messenger and start chatting to your witch friends while you're at dinner, like that's what I'm going for. It's like a mental version of going into an internet chat, except that it's happening in a slowed down version of reality, so that like those conversations are being packed essentially inside of 1 second of real time, this was a big influence on that. Just the mere idea of that multi-layered witch meta. Psychic Sylph says, I have to go to sleep, so I'll leave you here. Oh, well, don't worry, Psychic Sylph. I also have to go to sleep, so I'll leave all of you here. This has been fun, and I look forward to we're on chapter 2 now, everybody. We're gonna get to tell everybody that we're not in chapter 1 anymore. And then people maybe have more belief that this is a real thing that's happening and not just some scrub picking up who's just going to drop it along the way or whatever. No, we're deep. We're in the bones of it, God damn it. All right. Next Wednesday, hopefully. Again, we'll see what happens. I want it to always be Wednesday at 7 o'clock. Tonight it was like 9:45 when I finally started. So we'll see what happens. But all right, everybody. Have you a good night. Have a good sleep.